Welcome back, movie fans, to another episode of The Movie Date with Rob and Matt, a podcast for people who like movies but don't want to be too smug about it. My name is Rob.
Hey, I'm Matt.
And we have the first blind date episode, and I think
the blind
30 episodes.
Date.
Yeah. The last one we did was Zach made me watch Swiss Army Man, was my blind date.
Huh.
And
Never saw it.
I liked it for what it was, and I was like, it feels like an indie fairy tale of stuff, but with a guy, the dead man that farts and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a crazy movie.
Two good actors that I would like to see together.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, I guess I need to check that one out.
I mean, either way, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's a weird movie. I'll say that for sure. It's not for everybody. My
bet.
uncle walked out of it. And I think because it opens with a guy farting, and he's like, if you're into this, then it weeds out the people who don't want to see this movie from the people who do, right at the get-go.
I mean, The Lighthouse also has a lot of farting in it too, but it's a prestige picture.
Fair enough.
In my opinion.
Prestige flatulence.
But yes. I mean, it's sparing. It's sparing flatulence. It's all Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, we have a slew of movie news, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it so the podcast is not 9.5 hours long. We'll start with Michael Keaton is going to be heavily rumored from some pretty big publications to be returning as Batman in the new Flash movie.
Yeah, you want to get nuts? All right, let's get nuts.
Yeah, you love those Burton movies.
I do. Batman and Batman Returns.
I like
both
the first
Burton
one.
ones.
I don't like the second one very much.
I like both of them. They are a kind of twisty, comic booky, weird, very, very freed Tim Burton-y era before he discovered computers.
Yeah, that's true.
And Michael Keaton, again, I think as we talked about at some point, I don't recall when, but we talked about the idea that unexpected people pulling in unexpected performances.
Yeah.
A lot of people looked at Michael Keaton in the 80s.
In the grand spirit of DC casting news, it was much the rage when he was cast.
Yes, people are just like, they play a Batman? You mean the guy from
Mr. Mom?
The guy from Mr. Mom?
Yeah.
Comedy guy? And it worked. I think it works stunningly. He's a great Bruce Wayne. He's a great Batman.
I agree.
Also a short guy that they made seem pretty
he's
tall.
Tiny. Yeah.
And pretty intimidating.
Which is why I'm very much like, I don't know. So I was very torn on this. When it first came out, I was like, no, you can't do this. It's a missed opportunity, because what I want is, the rumor is this movie, and
because this is Flashpoint, right?
Flashpoint by way of Civil War is it Civil War, or it's Civil War by way of we take elements of the story and kind of do what we want with them.
Because I was talking to some friends about the
lore of the Flashpoint story.
Well, the DC shows and the huge multi-canon of the DC shows that are on the CW and on streaming, and it's a lot for me to go into. It's kind of like when people talk to me about it's really popular shonen anime, like, oh, you'd love One Piece, but you got to get through the first 100 episodes. And I'm like, I'm not going to devote my time into that.
What you can do, like I did, is I just watched 2 of the shows. I don't watch, I really liked Legends of Tomorrow, but they started getting rid of my favorite characters. I was like, I don't like any of these leftover. All the people with the dope superpowers are gone, and it's just a bunch of noobs who are ninjas or whatever.
Well, I'll say that the Flash looks interesting, and it had my attention early on.
People like the most.
Yeah, because
Legends of Tomorrow has its moments. Supergirl first season is really terrible, but the second season is very good, because they bring in Superman and Martian Manhunter and all the crazy
Batwoman until what's her name dropped out.
Ruby Rose.
Until Ruby Rose dropped out.
And there's another show in there. Black Lightning is technically in that universe.
Green Arrow.
Arrow was the first one.
Arrow was the big one. But they were telling me about the whole Flashpoint thing, where it's like they're bringing all these actors back. They're doing all this stuff. They're like Ezra Miller shows up in it.
Yeah,
and I was like, really?
Funny.
They brought those 2 worlds in. That's apparently where he figures out his name.
A lot of people.
Spoilers by the way, if you're not that far.
I mean, it's a glorified cameo, but Ezra Miller from the DCEU shows up in that, and a lot of people speculate that is when Zack Snyder, quote unquote, returned to the DCEU. Because if you noticed, since the Snyder Cut was announced, it's all old school DC news. It's all like, is Ben Affleck coming back? Is Zack Snyder going to finish his Justice League trilogy? Is he going to be, like Cyborg has now been confirmed for the Flash movie? So good for Ray Fisher.
I saw that also in there
because Barbara Muschietti, someone said, hey, don't forget to put Cyborg in it. And she was like, of course. So apparently that's happening.
Okay.
Good for him. Good guy. I think he needs a break personally. But Yeah, so that's also in the Flash news. But the big thing for me was when it comes to like the reason like Zack Snyder is an executive producer on a movie like Aquaman, even though he had very little to do with it, was because he created that version of Aquaman. So I don't think they would be able to use, I mean, it's Warner Brothers, so maybe, but I don't know if they'd be able to use that version of the Flash without consulting like, well, Zach, you're the person that put him in both your movies.
Well, it's like having like with Man of Steel with Christopher Nolan on board because it's kind of spiritually kind of the same deal. Like it's like, oh, you're coming off of my Batman movies into a tonal world that is very similar to what I left on.
Yeah.
So it's just it's sort of torch passy in a way.
Yeah, and I think they were sort of looking at it like, do we want to continue with some of the Snyder movies and the Snyder elements of that universe? Here's an idea. Put him in a TV show where he meets the other Flash and see how fans react. And fans seemed to like it. And I liked it too. I was like at the end, he goes, I have to tell Victor about this. So he's talking about Cyborg and stuff. He also talks about how like everything looks real cheap in your world and my world looks very cinematic, or he said something like that,
which is very in character, but also kind of
yeah, I liked that very much. But the big thing with me was, I think, and the actor has basically confirmed that he would love to do this, is so the skinny about Flashpoint is Flash goes back in time and stops his mother from being murdered. And in doing so, he changes the timeline. And when he comes back to his timeline, one, he no longer has superpowers, so he must get the Flash powers again. And Aquaman and Wonder Woman have gone to war with each other, and it spans the globe. And
oh my God! Wow, that's so
and all
the Atlanteans and
the
Amazonians are having a war where, hey, hiding in wherever we're hiding ain't the point.
Yeah,
it's scorched earth.
Cyborg is leading a sort of ragtag Justice League of various villains and other like side characters. Like, I think Harley Quinn might be one of them or whatever. And like people like Deathstroke are now good guys because they're like, these superpowered armies are crazy. We got to stop them. Lex Luthor's It's a great what if story.
I'm grinning about this because the idea of it, I'm like, I love bold, crazy stuff like that.
And the big reveal is on the night in Gotham City where Batman's parents were supposed to be killed, Bruce Wayne is killed, and Thomas Wayne becomes the Batman.
Is that the comic where Thomas Wayne becomes Batman and Martha Wayne becomes the Joker?
Yes.
Okay.
There's also an animated movie about this if you want to catch up on it real quickly. It's a great story written by a guy who might have some skeletons in his closet. We'll get to that later. But it's a great story, and my biggest tragedy about this news was Jeffrey Dean Morgan wants to come back and be Thomas Wayne. And I was like, hell yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a bloodthirsty Punisher Batman, I was like, I would be on board. And then they're like, well, people love those Michael Keaton movies, so we're going to bring him back. And I was like,
okay, I now see you're kind of sighing about it because I'm like,
because he is playing, and this has been confirmed, if he's in the movie, he is playing the Tim Burton Batman. Not like, we're kind of bringing him back as a nod, but he's a different character. He's Tim Burton's Batman, and I don't know if those worlds cross over well at all.
So you're saying this is taking the Tim Burton world Batman where Jack Nicholson was the Joker,
Danny DeVito's the Penguin,
Michelle Pfeiffer's
Catwoman,
and if we're pulling it so far, also someone who passed just recently, Joel Schumacher.
Yeah, those movies are technically supposed
in the
to
same
be
canon
sequels.
as well. It's just different actors, just Val Kilmer and George Clooney.
Yeah,
amazingly. I mean, okay, this is interesting. Yeah. Okay, so in the time, this is a different timeline though.
Yeah, like he would be going to. I think what they're gonna do is like, and again, I don't know if they're gonna adapt. I hate to be the excuse me, sir, comic book fan, but like
if they're gonna adapt the Flashpoint,
I really want to see Jason Momoa's Aquaman and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman as villains fighting and killing each other. Like it's very interesting to me.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, and the squandered opportunity to have a Jeffrey Dean Morgan Batman just to like feel nostalgic felt. I think that Michael Keaton could still do a more modern version of Batman. Like, I don't think one of the things I said is, the question is, when they announced the news, is he still going to have his terrible suit from that he peels off like a fruit roll up or whatever? And I was like, the rumor is he's going to be
he couldn't move in that thing anyway either.
I was like, one, he's almost 70 years old.
Yes.
I don't know how much action we can expect from him.
But I mean, look what they got out of him. You know, I mean, granted, it's been quite a while ago with Spider-Man.
That's true.
I mean, with him as Vulture. I mean, and he's he doesn't have to do much vulturing to be menacing. I mean, Michael Keaton's is really good at being scary.
Yeah, stunt guys and CGI do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Right. All he's got to do is put on the costume and then just like, it's me.
And the rumor is his suit in the Flash movie, and this is all heavily rumored and stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did this, is going to be the Kingdom Come suit. So if you've ever read the Kingdom Come
I know of it. Yeah, everyone's seen
He's in a giant brace because his body's been battered and beaten from being Batman for
Well, that's
30
kind
years.
of what they do in the show is they've got Kevin Conroy playing Kingdom Come Batman. Yeah. He's old man Batman who's
Brandon
surrounded.
Routh plays Kingdom Come Superman, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like Brandon Routh, and I'm glad he's getting a chance to be somebody in these films because he plays another hero, right?
Yeah, he plays the Atom.
He plays the Atom.
He plays Ray Palmer. Yeah.
Neato.
Yep. And my initial hesitation was because I don't know if those worlds could mix. I don't know if a guy who came from Tim Burton's world could hang with like. I don't think Michael Keaton's Batman could hang with the Flash or like a reverse Flash villain. He would split him in two.
Right.
In fact, there's a great comic that kind of ties in to Flashpoint, which is set in the Watchmen DC crossover that they were doing in the comics.
Which they took some of that into the new HBO thing, I believe.
I've heard that. I haven't finished it, but I have HBO Max now, and I'm going to start watching it. We can do an episode on it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
but what happens is there's a great scene where the reverse Flash shows up in the Batcave and says, like, you're out of time. It's a really cool cinematic scene. And then Batman's, he's like, I'm going to kill you before anyone can get here. And Batman's like, I don't have to beat you. I just have to stay alive for 14 seconds because the Flash is on his way over right now.
Right.
And it's this really cool slow-mo fight. Like he's getting absolutely destroyed by the reverse Flash. He throws a batarang into his foot and he just screams because he's not used to getting his ass kicked. And then at the end, Dr. Manhattan blows the reverse Flash up.
Right.
It's pretty cool. You don't know it's him, but it's him.
Right. Because that's one of the things about the CW Flash. One of the first things I heard about was the reverse Flash.
Yes.
Who's played by...
I can't remember the
actor's name, but he plays that character like something Harrison
Wells.
And he plays different versions of him every season.
In fact, one of them is a cool jazz man.
Yeah, and one of them is like a Sherlock Holmes detective sort of deal. Yeah.
But most of the main ones are dark, brooding guys who come from like worlds of consequence or something.
Right. And this one he's like this professor in a wheelchair, and then he's also
But is he though? Or is he Eobard Thawne pretending to do some stuff?
Or is he this legitimately scary psychopath who his design in it is so creepy and weird, and he's like, I've done everything.
Yeah.
Like I've been behind it all, Barry. Yeah. And I'm like, that's a cool villain.
That's the cool thing about a Flashpoint, and I don't know if even with a cool suit, and again, if anything is done well enough, I could buy it. Mm-hmm. It is cool to see him again, but I think that the better thing would have been make Michael Keaton do a Batman Beyond movie.
I was just about to say, you beat me to it. I'm like, when I first saw Keaton, especially where he is now, how he looks and everything.
He'd play a disheveled Wayne.
Yeah.
Really good.
Like, and I'd believe him still being a badass like Bruce is in Batman Beyond. And also Batman Beyond stylistically can very easily be the future of that Tim Burton world. It's very cyberpunk. It's very stylized. Obviously, this is in the future. It would be fun, especially since like we'll talk about Spider-Man, but since like young wards, like new people taking up like a Miles Morales is so cool, have a Terry McGinnis. Get a young actor to play a Terry McGinnis and see where you can go with that. I mean, granted, they probably don't want to flood the world with too many Batman since Matt Reeves' movie is in its own world.
The rumor is that Jeffrey Dean Morgan has said numerous times, I would love to do Flashpoint Batman, because that's that weird Snyder loyalty thing. Is like when he came in for Batman v Superman, everyone was immediately like, that would be a great Flashpoint Batman. So like, I hope that if you're doing a multiverse movie, why not have both of them?
Yeah.
Like, even if it's just like in some sort of a cameo version or whatever, because I think that would still work. And like, it seems like a very squandered opportunity. And we don't know to what degree they're going to adapt the story. I think Flashpoint as a story right now is pretty bulletproof. And you kind of can't do it better, so maybe just do it the way it is.
How much do you think that the success of something like Spider-Verse influences this move?
Well, yeah, I think a lot.
Because it's like people want to see these variations. People want to, it's like that movie was so successful and it showed all these variations that are canon in their own right. Yeah. That it's like, well, maybe people want to see that with Superman and Batman and everything like that.
Yeah, I agree.
And Keaton's an A-lister. Like he would draw some people in.
In 2021 and 2022, I think, we could have theoretically have had 4 Batmans in that 2-year period because Zack Snyder's Justice League comes back. So you have Ben Affleck.
You have Affleck.
You have Pattinson. And then you could have Morgan and
Keaton.
So I don't think people are. I think people who watch the DCEU movies and have seen them know the canon. So I don't think they would be confused. Like, how is he Batman if he's like? I think they would. People would. Yeah. I think the audience is smarter than that nowadays. I would really hate for Jeffrey Dean Morgan not to be that version of Batman.
He could do it so well. Like that's the thing. Like I get it. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Like you said, creator loyalty. He's very close with Snyder.
And I like the Michael Keaton Batman. I'm not shitting on it. Like,
and I like seeing Michael Keaton in stuff. He's like Kurt Russell to me. I'm like, if Michael Keaton's in a movie, I like it.
And it's his own unique thing, and nobody else did anything like it. But my thing is like, it's a world that is a little sillier and a little cheesier. And I don't know how you deal with like a world war where like metahumans or like that world never admits that it could have other superpowered people.
No, I mean
nobody has superpowers in it.
The only time you get it is when you start getting into the Schumacher era, and it's all you get
Poison Ivy.
You get Poison Ivy having that, but it all has like people falling into vats of things.
Yeah,
like everyone falls into a vat, it becomes something.
So what is that? What happens when Michael Keaton fights Jason Momoa's Aquaman and he like splits him in half?
Right, he just crucifies him with a trident.
It's a weird.
I mean, you do get George Clooney making the terrible line about "This is why Superman works alone."
Yeah,
but I think that
doesn't count.
It doesn't count because nothing counts in that movie.
Yeah, but like I worry that it's a tone clash. But I think there could be ways around it, or you could be like, oh, like Michael Keaton could be like a Batman who's never fought people with superpowers, and then the Flash alters the timeline where now he's Batman, but he grew up in a world where this exists. But then that wouldn't be Tim Burton's Batman. It would be an altering of the character.
The only way I can see them doing that is if they made a stylistic choice to make the world seem more Burton-y.
Yeah,
like a little more German impressionist,
Lots
little
of
more
bad painted sets in the background.
Which I
love it. I love it for
all
what it
for
is.
it. Again, one of the things I really liked about Batman Begins is when you get to the Narrows in there, that is a very stylistic, weird comic booky world, and then it just
giant snaggly houses that are way too tall.
It looks like
looks like Sweeney Todd's London or something.
Yeah, it looks like Sweeney Todd's London, or it looks like Blighttown in Dark Souls. And then they get rid of that and stick with more like a Michael Mann, hard urban city world. And I'm like, I like stylism. Like you could do it, but you'd have to.
You got to be careful.
You got to be careful.
Right.
But you're right; those two worlds clash, and either you divorce Michael Keaton's Batman entirely from the Burton aesthetic,
which I'm sure,
but that also would render his character
different and not the same. It wouldn't be the
same. Bruce Wayne
thing.
is kind of a little edgy. He's a little.
Which I say, make a Batman Beyond movie.
Yeah,
where it's just the Burton world, but
in the future,
100 years later, or whatever.
And then you get somebody. See, that's the thing. Like someone like Ezra Miller would have done really
Taron
good.
Egerton as Batman or Terry McGinnis or whatever.
Well, no, that's what I said. Like someone like Ezra Miller would have been great as Terry McGinnis, but yeah, get someone young, upcoming. To play Terry McGinnis. The problem is, like I said, is now you have a Batman Beyond. That's both an opportunity and a curse because you got everyone saying like, this would be great if we could do more of this character.
Yeah.
But wow, what do we do with this character?
Yeah, and you could spin it off into just like Batman Beyond does, the Beyond Justice League with like a new bald Green Lantern and old Superman is in there. Like that's opportunities being missed, I feel. That being said, if they do it well and I see a cool trailer, I'm like, oh, that looks dope, then I'll be fine.
Yeah. It all depends on who's running it.
In my sleep for Jeffrey Dean Morgan, but it'll be fine.
Yeah. We'll see what comes around for that. So
the next bit of DC news is Ryan Reynolds might be shooting a cameo to come back as Green Lantern.
As Hal Jordan?
As Hal Jordan. Not necessarily the same character he played in his movie, but Deadpool 3 is not happening anytime soon, is what they say, because Disney doesn't know what to do with that R-rated character. If you PG-13 it up, people aren't going to like it as much. And both of those movies are so successful and good that it feels like a big kind of fuck you from Disney. Like if I was Ryan Reynolds, I'd be like, I hate all of you right now.
Yeah, they gotta
kind of made that happen.
They gotta. I mean, obviously nobody's making big decisions right now until people are coming back into movie theaters. Yeah, but like
make an R-rated Deadpool. People are smart. They'll get it.
Yeah. don't put it on Disney Plus or well, I guess you have to put it on Disney Plus because you've went all in on this platform and it's got all your stuff on there. That's tough unless they create like Disney Plus After Dark, and that's where they have all their R-rated movies.
Put a content warning for parents and be like, this movie's rated R. Like, I feel like fans are like smart enough to know, like, and also it doesn't have to be in the MCU. Just give the same people money and make a Deadpool 3. But apparently that's not happening, and the rumor is, and this is from like Grace Randolph, who is like 50-50 on her rumors, but she said she's heard it from 2 or 3 people and they're going forward with it, is he is going to be shooting like some sort of a cameo, which means it can't be a big thing because I don't think Green Lantern was ever meant to show up in the first Justice League movie. It's supposed to be later.
I mean, we see the lanterns themselves,
yes,
but it leaves open for the possibility that we could get a Jon Stewart or a Kyle,
which is the one that I want. I grew up with Kyle Rayner, but Jon Stewart is he's my version of the Green Lantern.
Yeah, and there's you got a lot of good choices for Jon Stewart. Like, he'd be a good, after coming off, I mean, it's been a long time since Green Lantern, but after coming off that, you know, having, you know, a strong stoic, you know, like seeker of justice, like it would be a good look.
But if and I watched this movie again after I heard this news, just to see, is it really as bad as I'm making
Martin
it out
Campbell,
to be?
Green Lantern?
I was like, would it be possible for him to come back? And I walked away with 3 main ideas, which is 1, the movie's still bad.
Yeah.
That CGI does not hold up very well. Even the opening scene is cringe CGI. 2, Ryan Reynolds would be fine under a better director and a better script. And also Mark Strong Sinestro is great.
Yeah, that's a tragedy is you lose Mark Strong Sinestro.
And Jeffrey Rush is Tomar Ray and all those other like extra lanterns.
The late Michael Clark Duncan is Kilowog.
Great. Can I trade him or can I trade him? I love that scene. It's that's the best part of the movie is that training montage and him being on Oa.
Yeah, all the Oa stuff. Like you said, even the CGI is garbage. It still is like you get to have the fun. You get to have the Lantern Corps.
Yeah.
When you go back on Earth, it's like I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care about this guy who screams like a girl and has a big head. Like,
yeah, I don't care about this
Cloud Galactus / Parallax or whatever. But here's my thing: is you can retcon that. You can just say, oh, this is Hal Jordan, but not acknowledge his movie.
Yeah.
But you let him be in other things going forward, and maybe he gets a spinoff. Maybe you move that into the Green Lantern show that's going to be on HBO Max, which is going to have like Game of Thrones level budget behind it. There's opportunities. I'm kind of, if they hire a new dude to be a Green Lantern later, that's fine. If they bring Ryan Reynolds back for some cameo to see how fans like it,
I mean, you can do the obvious thing, which is he gets killed. The ring goes to find somebody else.
That's true. But after a while, the comics undercut that because there's like 7 human Green Lanterns right now. Let me see if I can remember them all.
Earth needs a lot of Green Lanterns.
That's if you don't count Alan Scott, the first one.
First one.
I'm talking about like Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart, Kyle Rayner, Guy Gardner, Simon Baz, Jessica Cruz, and the new one who I can't remember.
Yeah, I forgot about Guy Gardner. Yeah. That would be fun.
He'd be great.
Yeah, just have 2.
Cast Channing Tatum as a douchebag.
Oh, that'd be. You got it. Yeah, no, like have
he's your average Call of Duty player who given terrible amounts of power.
He's a horrible Twitch streamer who's now you've got that's a dude, you got a really good idea there.
I know.
Have 2 Green Lanterns. Have the Corps get a little, but you get like a straight shooter like a Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
And then you get
a wise ass
Guy Gardner.
Yeah.
And
Guy Gardner shows that like just because you have to be fearless to inherit a ring.
Yeah.
But you need not be a nice person.
No, courage is not an alignment.
Yeah.
Like any awful person can be courageous.
I always grew up with the 90s Green Lantern in the comic books, which was Hal Jordan, or which was Kyle Rayner.
Kyle Rayner, yeah.
Because he was the one on the Justice League, and he had the cool goggles.
Cool goggles.
And I was like, I think Snyder loves goggles. Yeah. They're in all of his movies. So I feel like that would be a cool one.
Yeah. He was perfectly 90s broody, like edgy kind of.
His girlfriend gets murdered and put into a fridge.
Put in the fridge. Yeah. Get the classic.
By Major Force, who is the arch villain of one of my favorite superheroes, who will never be on screen, is Captain Atom. I remember that Justice League episode where him and Superman fight, and I was like, this is everything I ever wanted. Yeah. Let's get to the more serious news.
Yeah. So we'll wrap up DC World with talk about how much our love of Ray Fisher.
Yeah. I'll get to the other comments about it later, but so he released a video online of him at 2017's Comic-Con where he said in his tweet, he said, "I'd like to forcefully retract every word of this statement." And underneath it was a video of him saying at Comic-Con when a fan asked him a question, yeah, Joss is a great guy and Zach picked a great guy to come in and clean up and finish up for him. So that's what he's retracting. And people were like, oh, throwing a little bit of shade at Joss Whedon.
I mean, that's quite a shade.
I thought it was kind of innocuous, like, oh, nothing's going to come of that. And it's just him being like, nah, I'm being loyal to my boy. He also wore a I Heart ZS shirt.
I saw that shirt, recently.
So I thought it was just, oh, he's being loyal to his friend or whatever. And then he comes out the next day and says, if I get the exact tweet, because I've read it so many times now, apparently, Joss Whedon's treatment of the cast and crew on the set of Justice League was abusive, gross, unprofessional, and unacceptable. And he said he was enabled in many ways by Jeff Johns and John Berg. Accountability is more important than entertainment. So that is his tweet.
That is a statement. Yeah. That is a damning statement.
Yeah, if anything, it almost feels like he talked to his publicist first, like, I'm going to do this.
I'm going to throw this Hail Mary out.
Yeah. And it unleashed a firestorm. One, I'm glad that he did it because I saw a lot of people saying things like, no, but I love Firefly in the Avengers, to which I always said, you can, Joss Whedon's ability to make some good content is not mutually exclusive to him being an asshole. Yeah. And it's seeming to be like, time's up for that dude.
It's kind of a rough go right now. For a while, a lot of people have come out about the thing.
His ex-wife released that thing about how he treated women on his sets, and he was very predatory in a way.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much into those rumors because most of the problems a lot of people have had with Joss Whedon have seemed very hands-off. Yeah. Not my place to say because I have not read everything. Mostly it's people kind of coming out of the haze of excitement for him, like he was their guy, realizing
he made the Avengers. He could do no wrong.
He made the Avengers. He made Firefly, something I really love. Made Buffy. Like he created an entire generation of this niche for nerd culture, and was considered king nerd for a long time.
And I told the guy, I don't usually get into like Facebook spats on groups or whatever, but something this guy said really irked me where he said like, come on, man, he makes great content. And I was like, you know what? I was like, a lot of people make great content. We were on a Zack Snyder group that I follow where I get all this news from usually. And I was like, you can also follow people who make great content but aren't malicious creeps. And I was like, so may I suggest a Zack Snyder or a Matthew Vaughn or any of these other people who make like awesome like nerd movies that we love. And I was like, Edgar Wright. His ability to make good content is irrelevant to this discussion. We're talking about his behavior. And that's the thing. And
a lot of people have mostly just been saying, like, for a long time have been saying, hey, y'all need to rethink like Joss Whedon as this progressive stalwart, representative of everybody, because it's like, no, he really isn't.
No.
Of course, I was going to say earlier,
even like substantively, he's not, because his Avengers movies, and I don't particularly care about this, but is 6 white people.
Right.
And like if you look at Zack Snyder's Justice League, it's a Pacific Islander and a black dude and a Jewish lady, and like it's much more inclusive if we're gonna go that route. So like I never saw him as this great progressive stalwart. I saw him as a guy who kind of had a tone for making cool, wise ass characters and made some content that I thought was good. I still say like I've seen Serenity and I don't really like it. I think it's fine. I think that Avengers movie is great, and I think that if Joss Whedon had made his Justice League movie from the ground up with his script, it would have been a better movie than what we got.
Right.
But again, irrelevant.
Irrelevant right now in this conversation. The only thing I'll volley it back to you so for us to keep going with that. But yeah, the only thing is now we're starting to hear more just about that he's kind of this. He kind of is. It's a good time to just listen to what folks are saying, and it's very interesting. Ray Fisher pops up and brings us. Yeah, brings us up.
In a way, he has some. It's weird because in a way he has the most to lose, in a way he has the least to lose. Because since Justice League, he's had one role, which was season 3 of True Detective.
He's good in it.
Yeah, and he came to Arkansas, and I think he came to a Comic-Con, and I missed it, and I wanted to go like meet him and shake his hand or whatever, but I didn't get a chance to do it. But since he's now in this Flash movie, I think what it is Joss Whedon doesn't have the power to stall his career. Neither does a Jeff Johns or any of those people, because he's going to be in the Flash movie from what we understand. And I think with Zack Snyder's Justice League out, it might give him the boost he needs to get more roles.
Because, like we said, Justice League is very much Cyborg's movie. Like, he's kind of
it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. But with this new cut, it will be more so that. He will more so be our audience surrogate. He will more so be the character moving the plot along.
The heart of the story, as Zack Snyder
the heart
says.
of the story.
And I think that the old guard are gone from Warner Brothers. The Kevin Tsuchihara, who was, giving women that he was like having sex with, he was giving them like roles and like extra parts in movies and stuff. Yeah. Like now it's with this AT&T merger, and Ann Sarnoff is the people who greenlit this Justice League Snyder Cut deal, like Toby Emmerich. Those are the people who are making decisions now. And the people who wanted that movement to kind of die and go away, the people who kind of empowered the Jeff Johns and John Bergs, those people are gone. So I think Ray Fisher knows that and is like, well, I'm going to say something about this. And I'm glad that he did it. 99% of the people are being real supportive. The hashtag is I stand with you, Ray Fisher. And the other like 1% is like, oh, you're just mad because you haven't had a role because that movie sucked. And I was like, one, the movie sucks because the guy he's talking about in the tweet more or less contributed to a tonally inconsistent movie that's not good. Even if, and again, like, I don't hate Justice League as it stands now.
We had a whole episode on it. Y'all want to check it out.
Go listen to it. But also, we're talking about like people like Jeff Johns and John Berg. The rumor is Jeff Johns is the quote unquote executive that every story where like executives were unhappy with Snyder's cut, so they ordered reshoots, and then he left the movie and they brought in Joss Whedon. That's all Jeff Johns.
Yeah, he's the Dick Cheney in this situation.
Apparently. Which is a shame because I love a lot of his comic books.
Yes, but I know him a lot from when he wrote for Batman and DC stuff. And he reinvented
Green Lantern, wrote Flashpoint. He apparently is...
He should know his stuff.
Yeah, but he's also apparently quite ambitious and wants a career as a big-time movie producer, and that is why we got such a hugely edited down... He saw the opportunity to have, to make Marvel money by bringing in Marvel's team movie-making guy.
It seemed like the ace in a hole.
Yeah.
It was to fill that gap with Joss Whedon, and it just... It seems like everybody was not thinking. As soon as they hit the stage, nobody was on the same page.
Yeah, and the rumor is he has a tendency to burn a lot of bridges, and this is coming from like a lot of different sources. Someone who's being a dickhead was messaging Diane Nielsen, the former president of DC or whatever, who Jeff Johns has her job now, and they said. I will be the first person to say they were being kind of rude. They were like, well, you guys helped ruin Zack Snyder's Justice League, you and your buddy Jeff Johns. And she says, he's no friend of mine. So apparently there's a lot of animosity around from Jeff Johns. And
surprise, surprise, when egos hit the floor and then not everything is hunky-dory.
Now, so I don't like him. But it also could be that he is somewhat of an overly ambitious Littlefinger kind of guy, and he doesn't really care how he gets there. And apparently he is not involved in anything on film, except for now he has, I think, a producer credit on the new Wonder Woman movie.
Well, I imagine he's a lot there because he's one of DC's big people, and it's just like, well, having Jeff Johns on board is like a stamp of approval.
Yeah, and now he's only in charge of show running Stargirl on the CW or whatever, or HBO Max or wherever it is. And the rumor is, in that comment thread where Ray Fisher said that, some women came out and said that Jeff Johns harassed them online and like sent them like inappropriate DMs and tried to like flirt with them. They were underage girls as well. No judgment, because that's all accusations.
Allegedly.
We don't know.
Allegedly. But it seems like you said, the new guard has come in and is kind of curtailing a lot of this drama.
Yeah, Walter Hamada came in right when Justice League came out and Jeff Johns in the box office was bad, and he has been the guy in charge of it now. Aquaman, Birds of Prey, and Shazam have all been under his reign,
and they've all been pretty solid.
Yeah,
very, very solid.
They weren't all financially successful, but Aquaman made over $1 billion. So I think he is a much firmer hand, and he was one of the guys at that Snyder Cut screening that they went to at his house. So I think all the people that are there are like people that are much firmer hands to be in there. And
It seems like the Snyder contingency
is much more loyal and much nicer.
The Snyder insurgency is a very
we're taking over they've taken over the madhouse or whatever.
Yeah.
But and the thing
taking over Arkham.
Yeah, the thing that really very good. The thing that really irritated me and made me angry is they reached out to Joss Whedon. He said no comment. Jeff Johns has said nothing. They reached out to John Berg, the other half of that producing team, and he said it is categorically untrue that we enabled any type of abusive behavior. I have heard that Ray Fisher was really upset that we made him say booyah in the movie. To which I said, go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
you're telling me he said all this stuff because he had to say booyah in his movie. Now he might be that is a reshoot. We know that for sure. But we also know that like that could just be like I liked what Zack Snyder did with the character and I don't think we should do something like this. And by the way, he did it. It's in the movie. Mm-hmm. So he can be upset, but you think that's why he's saying
especially
all this?
This late in the game. For that to be something that's like chewing at your craw, especially when you're getting when Fisher's gonna get his
Day in the
his
Sun.
Movie coming next year, that he would just bring this up to just be like to throw a wrench in the spokes of a bike that's not even moving now.
Yeah, John Berg is in charge of nothing now. Like he's not damaging John Berg's career any more than it already has been. Essentially.
Yeah, I can just imagine him saying that in his cloud of producer cigar smoke, just like so he had to say a line he didn't care for.
And all I could think of was,
allegedly.
What do you think he's upset about? Joss Whedon screaming in Gal Gadot's, and this is another rumor, allegedly, Joss Whedon on set would like scream at Gal Gadot and threaten to ruin her career if she didn't do like the scene where Flash falls on her, which if you know in the movie, that's not Gal Gadot that he falls on, it's her stunt double because she didn't want to do it because she thought it was demeaning or whatever to the character. And there was ADR work where he was apparently really mean, and I would say that is behavior that is gross and abusive. So I don't think Ray Fisher would throw these words out if like, oh, he was kind of mean because he didn't like a take I did. Some directors can be
even good directors have to keep everything together. You know, like I hate to say it, but there are a lot of great directors who are tyrants. You know,
David O. Russell.
David O. Russell is a noticeable asshole.
Yeah.
So Stanley Kubrick was a tyrant.
Yes, made what's her face do like 500 takes of Jack Nicholson.
It's horrible.
Yeah, and
it's
I think
horrible.
the days of that being necessary.
Alfred Hitchcock was a monster.
Yeah, I think the days of that being necessary to make good movies are over.
They're over. The asshole auteur like William Friedkin type, that's just like, I own my set, and and then you hear the nightmares about what it is. You don't have to do that anymore because they all did all that in order to create independent auteur cinema. Yeah. And now we can have nice people work on stuff. We can have, people who have good relationships with their filmmakers,
yes. And I think that
during all that, you had Steven Spielberg, who everyone loves working with Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. And I think that I very much doubt that he's saying that because of the booyah thing, as opposed to what he said, which is the terrible treatment of the set. People have said no one else is coming out to back him up, like Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck haven't said anything.
And as we brought up, Alan Tudyk popped up. He's worked with Joss Whedon for a long time.
He says, I can never imagine Joss doing something like that. But he did say, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
To be fair,
he said I wasn't on set, but he says I can't imagine Joss doing that, and I have a great imagination.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, it's his experience.
That is his experience, and it could be they just get along real well. It could be Joss Whedon is totally nice on his Avengers movies, but he was really stressed out when he was doing Justice League because the studio gave him a bunch of things that he had to do. I don't know. I know that if that's true,
this is breaking news.
It's unacceptable.
It's probably by the time we get to another episode, this saga will be continuing on.
Yeah,
or it'll fade out, and everyone will walk off and just say, we'll leave it be, and obviously, but Mr. Fisher will have his moment, as will Zach.
Some of these things have been rumors for a while, like the Wonder Woman thing about her and Joss not getting along.
I've heard about that.
I've heard that for years. So I think if it's been around for that long, it's most likely that's probably accurate. Yeah, good for you, Ray. Say what you want to say.
It's your space.
It's your space.
Yeah.
Matt, why don't you take us into the next piece of news?
So we're going to leave DC behind.
So much DC news.
We're going to talk about...
I'm sorry. One last thing. Yeah. They're skipping Comic-Con and doing their own online fandom called DC Fandom, and apparently we will be getting news about all this stuff.
Oh, that'd be we'll keep an eye on
Michael
that.
Keaton news, Flash news.
Do they have a date for that?
It is currently slated for 2022.
Oh, okay. So this is a while. Okay, I thought you meant
they're
soon.
They're still getting everything together, but Andy Muschietti and Barbara Muschietti have confirmed there will be flash news because they're the director and producer of the movie. So we'll be getting news from that. Zack Snyder has his own panel. If someone asks him about that Ray Fisher thing, I will be fascinated to hear what he says. He's a political guy. He'll never say anything like mean. He's always like, he doesn't let it get to him. Because I'm sure he probably heard some of these stories while he was away from
production.
So I bet you, I'd be fascinated to hear any of that. But anyway, go.
So we're gonna head over to the two-party system of the comic book media.
What, you like Bloodshot?
to Marvel Image?
Yeah, Image Comics.
Everybody owns one another. Yeah. Marvel, because since we brought up Spider-Verse into Spider-Verse, Chris Miller and Philip Lord have come out to talk more about what will be coming up for Spectacular Spider-Man 2. Or not Spectacular Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse 2. I was thinking of the cartoon series, Spectacular Spider-Man, just really good. Yeah. They've put out some production stills of what the style is. They said that essentially that what you saw with Spider-Verse that was so amazing, that got them an Oscar, that got them all this acclaim, you're going to see, you ain't seen nothing yet. Like, it's going to bend so much more.
Do you think that they're going to change the visual style of the movie to match the new main character? Like, each character sees this world differently, and it's going to be like do you think that? Or like, I'm speculating.
I think that, so I've got Cinema Blend up here.
Yeah.
And they don't have much information about it other than just, obviously we're going to see, say Christopher Miller said on the 1st, so yesterday.
Yeah.
It is yesterday. Yeah, it is yesterday. Yeah. The development of new groundbreaking art techniques being done for the next Spider-Verse movie are already blowing me away. It's going to make the first movie look quaint.
Nice.
So that's a big, especially since Lord and Miller, for me and everything that they've done, have been so.
I love them.
There's some really fun news for them. We're gonna end the section with, because they just got one of their first things coming back. Oh, I should be able to. They're getting Clone High. They're doing Clone High again.
I don't know what that is.
Clone High.
Tell me.
Side point. Clone High was one of Lord and Miller's first things they worked on together. It was a cartoon TV show. I think it was for MTV. I don't remember who had it first, and it. I know it aired on a couple of other things, like I think Comedy Central got it, Cartoon Network may have gotten it, Adult Swim may have gotten it. And so it was around the time of like Futurama was coming out and everything. So it was like the early 2000s. And it had this huge cult following. It was a short-run series, and essentially it was this mad scientist made clones of famous dead people throughout history and put them all in a high school drama. So like the main characters is Abe Lincoln, Gandhi, and Abe Lincoln, Gandhi, and Joan of Arc.
And they're getting to come back to this show.
Yes.
Cool.
Clone High is very funny. It is very funny.
Is it going to be animated again?
Oh, yeah, certainly. Okay. Yeah. It was one of Lord and Miller's first big things that kind of took them off into bigger things in their career. Clone High was such a big cult hit. I think it only had like 2 seasons or something. It's kind of like Abe Lincoln is kind of the gawky nerd, and Gandhi is his
he's the jock, of course.
No. JFK is the jock. JFK is like you go look at the art design, you'll get everything. Like the character designs are so perfect that like Joan of Arc is the gothy, like sullen teenager, and
Abe Lincoln is a tall, skinny nerd. Probably.
Yes, tall, skinny nerd, and Mahatma Gandhi is like the small, like kind of jumpy, like he makes all the great puns, the great ones. Say what? It's a very funny series, cool. Very self-referential, and they're getting a new season.
That's
so
great. When did it first come out?
I would say about probably 2002, 2003. I think.
Way back then for them.
Yeah, it was way back.
Before they did any of the Jump Street movies or the Lego
like
movies?
I said, this sent them off. Spider-Verse is Lord and Miller. Side tangent, because this is just a Lord and Miller minute.
Yeah.
Returning to MTV. So it was MTV originally. It's from Polygon. Once it loads up. So while it's loading up, essentially what we do know is Oscar Isaac for Spider-Verse is going to be playing Spider-Man 2099. There's already some design for that already with the cowl and all that.
Yeah. So that's not Peter Parker. It's
It's
I can't remember the
Miguel.
name of the character. It's the Latino one.
Yeah. It's. I had it for a second ago.
Are there any other Spider-Man, like Spider-Men you want to see in this? Like Ben Reilly, I think is one. He's a clone of someone or other. There's the one.
There's a lot of knowledge about Spider-Man I don't
Man-y
know.
Spider where he has like his suit is made of armor and it looks like it's like silvery colored and it looks like an Iron Man suit. That's what I remember.
The multiverse Spider-Man stuff I'm very unfamiliar
Fair
with.
enough.
Other than just Peter and Miles.
Fair enough.
However, who's the Spider-Man that's got like the actual spider like legs and like is like in red and black, kind of a scarier Spider-Man?
Are you talking about the one who has like 8 arms?
Yes.
I can't remember.
Doesn't have like actual 8 arms, but has like an like a mechanical appendage on the back. It's a very striking design.
I don't know. It reminds me of the Iron Spider from Civil War and stuff. Like
kind of that
the
same
suit that Peter wears in that.
That's kind of the same deal.
Yeah.
So before they were the Spider-Verse producers, the Lego Movie guys, or the 21 Jump Street, even Cloudy at the Chance of Meatballs, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, along with Bill Lawrence, the creator of Scrubs, which will give you a great idea of what the humor of the show is.
Okay.
Did a 1-season wonder, Clone High, in 2002. So they're getting a second season.
Back like over a decade plus later. That's interesting. I'll have to check it out.
It's worth checking out. It's quite funny. It was 13 episodes, I think, between 2002 and 2003. So Scrubs was very hot at that time. This was Lord and Miller's first big thing, and then they would go on to do, I think, Cloudy with the Chance of Meatballs was the next big thing, and then they would hop,
and then it was
Jump Street, Lego
Solo,
Movie. They almost got Solo, which that would have been great if they had
Lord and Miller cut.
Lord, please. So that's all the information I have on that. Is they're making big game for that. Obviously, that movie we might get more information on that coming sooner than later. But they have at least 4 stills that I saw that are out right now of the general concept design, which, I mean, it's so detailed that it could be actual shots from the movie already.
Yeah.
But they should be bringing everybody back, because having the whole crew was such a hit. You got to have Spider-Gwen. Like, that character is so popular.
Yeah, I would be shocked if they didn't bring any of those characters back. Oscar Isaac is a good choice for...
Well, he's in the post credits as well, and he's voicing that character. So he was slated from the beginning.
Yeah, because they had Chris Pine plays regular Peter Parker in the movie. They got some bigger names. Jake Johnson plays Peter B. Parker.
Yep.
Probably my favorite performance of that guy.
Yeah, he's
even better than New Girl.
Yeah, he's New Girl was a show I was hesitant on for a while because I wasn't a big Zooey Deschanel person.
Me neither.
And then I saw that show and I'm like, oh, she's great in this.
I love Andy Samberg's impression of Zooey Deschanel. It's, hey, how's it going? It always makes me laugh. But I do love New Girl. My girlfriend makes me watch it with her whenever we're
It's a
bored.
very fun show.
It's a very fun show.
It's a very fun show.
She says I'm a very Schmidt man. So moving on to our next piece, Carl Reiner passed away.
Yeah, let's do an obituaries. Yeah, Carl Reiner and Joel Schumacher.
That's true. Joel Schumacher.
Joel Schumacher. This will be brief, but Joel Schumacher.
He did other movies besides the Batman ones, guys.
He did
Tigerland with
Falling
Colin
Down.
Farrell. Phantom of the Opera.
All
right.
He did some classics though. Here, let me bring up Joel
Lost
Schumacher's
Boys.
The Lost Boys.
Great.
The Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Joel Schumacher was well-known for being a really great. A real mensch. Like, people liked working with him. He was very stylish. He was very had a very particular aesthetic and very unique. Like, none of his movies are kind of the same.
Yeah.
He was just very well liked, and people liked working with him, even if his movies were kind of, people have different takes on it. Because he's been working for a while, since like the mid-70s.
I love The Lost Boys.
Lost Boys is great.
Yeah.
St. Elmo's Fire.
Good.
Flatliners.
That's pretty good.
Falling Down, which is kind of its own cult classic. It hasn't aged well. The idea of an angry white guy going around with a gun.
Yeah.
That hasn't aged well. But at the time, it was a very iconic kind of... I remember loving it when I was a kid. The Client. A Time to Kill.
Yeah.
Which is that really great John Grisham... That's right. That's that John Grisham one. Yeah. That's one of Samuel Jackson. 8mm. Tigerland, Phone Booth, which is a movie I remember finding pretty fun.
Yeah. I remember seeing Tigerland. It was the first time I saw like Colin Farrell can act. It's like he's like that guy is gonna do great things.
Because I think at the time the only thing I knew Colin Farrell from was like American Outlaws, where he's just a cowboy guy. I was like, he wants to do every voice that's not his Irish accent.
Yeah.
Because then I heard him in Phone Booth, and I was like, is he actually Irish? Like, because his New England, New York guy voice is pretty good.
Yeah. There's a few tells. But
there's a few tells. A lot of, but he was an iconic filmmaker.
And some people do argue that those Joel Schumacher Batman movies, bad though they may be, are memorable.
Batman Forever is a movie I kind of like.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, especially if you're just going for style. I mean, the man knew how to shoot a movie, and the man knew what he wanted. I mean, he's also
it's weird and terrible, but it's not. If at least even his bad movies were memorable and so bad you can enjoy them in a way.
Schumacher wasn't a delusional filmmaker. He I think a lot of it was him just being like,
he looks back on those.
It's Batman.
Yeah, he looks back on those movies now. Like when he saw the Chris Nolan movies, he was very much like, oh, I didn't know what I had.
Yeah, I didn't know you could do that. I thought you can only do this with this camp.
He was a victim of the times. Like, he made a Batman movie in 2012.
Yeah,
he would have made a much better movie.
Yeah, because he clearly can do suspense. He clearly is from that school.
Yeah,
and he was an expert.
Like The Lost Boys is one of those movies where like I had never seen vampires in such an interesting way. Weird anarchist 80s rock stars.
Yeah, punk rock vampire kind of deal. Yeah.
And I genuinely still love that movie. And I love the gore, and I even love the scene where the dog knows that Jason Patrick is a vampire and it attacks him, and then he walks down the stairs in the dark and you just hear him breathing. Like, it's suspenseful.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Joel Schumacher, a Hollywood legend, a man of great class.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely not a Joss Whedon type, for sure.
Carl Reiner, who, I mean, what did you know Carl Reiner most from?
I never
Probably
saw,
the same thing.
I never saw a lot of his stuff. The one I remember him most is he was in an episode of House where he plays. What was the guy's character? It's a character where him and his dad both hate each other. So they're trying to get House to tell the other one that they're sick so they can't live together anymore. And House pulls the rug out from both of them and tells them, you're both liars. You both want the same thing. You just don't know it. Why don't you just move out or whatever? What do you remember him from?
Ocean's 11. I remember him being Saul in Ocean's 11. And my name is Limon Zerga. Yeah. My name is Limon Zerga. Yeah, that's he really stood out in that, because that was a movie I really loved.
Ocean's 11 is great.
And
Ocean's 12 is bad.
No,
Ocean's 13 is good, but it was the damage was done by that point, and nobody went and saw it.
Yeah, Ocean's 12 was not good. But Soderbergh's Ocean's 11 is great, and Carl Reiner is just like, again, kind of like one of the focal points, like a heart of that movie. Yeah. And then like my parents were just like, oh, that's Carl Reiner. Like, yeah, like look at this directing career, you know, like The Jerk, you know, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, The Man with Two Brains. Like these are all like,
I'm sad to say I don't know some of these.
Well, I knew The Man with Two Brains with Steve Martin. There's a lot of Steve Martin. He was a big vehicle hopper for Steve Martin. The Jerk is like a classic rough around the edges comedy of its era. It was very 1979. It was very shocking and kind of Farrelly Brothers for its time. Kind of around that kind of gross humor sort of deal.
Yeah.
But you know, he's been working with these classics for so long. Like he had been in these pictures very recently with Mel Brooks and Dick Van Dyke, and they're all, you know, still here. He was 98 years old. You know, the end of an era. I remember Max Brooks, Mel Brooks' son, had this video at the beginning of the quarantine. He was just like, "That's my dad in there," and good old Mel Brooks is in the window like, "Hey, hello," and they're just like, "Yeah, if I go in there and I'm sick, I kill Mel Brooks, Carl Reiner, Dick Van Dyke, and I end an entire generation of comedy."
Yeah, wash your hands, buddy.
Yeah, but Carl Reiner went before them, 98 years old, a splendid career, created very funny, worked with Mel Brooks, part of Mel Brooks's ascent.
A real Renaissance man.
Created the Dick Van Dyke Show, which is a show I didn't really watch much, but I mean, Dick Van Dyke is a legend in his own right.
He was a director. He was like a showbiz man,
a voice actor.
Yeah.
Almost 100 years, or at least 80 years of work up until 98, and was still cognitive and all that.
It's what every man wants to be. You want to keep doing what you love till like death knocks on your door.
Yeah. He was still doing stuff until like last year. So good for Carl Reiner. Rest in peace. That's our obituaries. How about we? Do you have anything else on mind?
Nope. No, we're done.
We spent
way too much time on news. It's fine.
Like you said, 90 minutes. So this is a blind date. Blind date.
Which we haven't done since a long time.
This is my first blind date.
The last one that was officially a blind date was Zach made me watch Richard Linklater's A Scanner Darkly.
Oh, yeah.
I'd never seen it before. I'd seen images of it, like the weird rotoscaping and stuff. And I saw it, and I really liked it for the most part.
When it came out, it's
a real sad movie.
I was at camp.
Yeah.
Like I was at summer camp.
You were a child.
Yeah, I was
never watched that movie.
Yeah, no, because it was like what
2006-ish.
I will say 2005.
Yeah, it was around that time.
Yeah, I think I had gone to summer camp or something around that time. I know I was like a teenager, but it was like the last time I could do it, and the movie was going to come out, so I had bought the book. So I had read the book, and this is like the second time I'd done that. I also did that with No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, it's fairly close to the book.
Yes, because it's
a perfect example of what addiction does to your brain, and it makes
it's a tragedy of addiction.
And it shows it to you, the audience, in a way where you believe it.
And it's also about how the capitalization of pharmacy and the money and power created by both law enforcement and, as I sit up on my stand real quick, of law enforcement and pharmacology and capitalism benefits from addiction.
Yeah, Alex Jones is in it.
Yeah,
before he's tased and taken away.
Well, him and Linklater
really happened.
Yeah,
in real life
Linklater was pretty close with Alex Jones because he was also in a movie I grew up watching a lot, which was Waking Life, which was also a rotoscope Richard Linklater movie. I think it's one worth looking back on. But yeah, the only problem with that movie is you get a little too much Alex Jones, because at the time he was just an Austin like weirdo that people are like, hey, he's our weirdo.
Linklater looks at him now and goes, what a lunatic.
Yeah, well, he should have never been famous.
Yeah, and but I remember really liking it.
You did that,
but we haven't had one since then, and we said it's about time we brought this back, and I'd like to do it maybe like once every 5-6 episodes.
Well, I know with my movie, I've got homework to finish up, so I'll have to think of another one for you.
It's all up from there too, is what I like about it. But you told me to watch Rian Johnson's first movie, I think, Brick.
First film, Brick.
And then I told you to watch Rupert Wyatt's Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
The beginning of what I call the thinking man's blockbuster.
Thinking like the picture of the chimp, like scratching his chin thinking.
Yeah. And so do we want to, let's start with, which one do you want to start with? Mine that I watched first, or the one that you watched first?
I think that because I'm going to be continuing my Journey of the Apes, I just watched Dawn recently, and I'm going to watch War.
So tell me what you thought about it in a word.
Of which one?
Of Dawn, the second one.
Ape stuff is great.
Yeah.
Human stuff, it's okay.
Yeah. Gary Oldman has a scene where he cries.
Yeah, at a picture, and like, it doesn't really...
Really? I thought like it was how good an actor that man is.
Well, it's more just like it doesn't really go anywhere because you don't really get to know that character that well.
Yeah.
And he still is a bad guy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I mean, who's the lead in it again?
Andy Serkis.
No, not Andy Serkis. Jason Clarke.
Jason Clarke. He's all right.
He's all right.
Everyone's all right.
Jason Clarke is a fine actor. He's just kind of dull in that movie.
Yeah.
He ain't no James Franco. And I mean, none of us should be James Franco, but at least James Franco is a charismatic force on screen. We'll get to that. We talked a lot about Rian Johnson. Obviously, if you went back to 2006, coming off of Brick, and told Rian Johnson, hey, you're going to direct a Star Wars one day.
He's like, what?
He would laugh.
So you want me to start?
Let's start. Let's talk about Brick.
Okay.
I've
only seen, like, I saw like 2 clips of this movie, and I'd never seen anything else since then. I knew it was a noir film, and boy, buddy, was I not prepared for how noir it is.
It is unabashedly and campily noir.
And my thoughts coming out of this movie. First of all, this movie was made at his high school for $400,000, and in
2005 rather.
2005, yeah. And it's a cheap movie that has some really people that would go on to do a lot of really good stuff in it, which is kind of impressive that he was able to do that. I think my feelings at the end of this movie was this: what? That's how I would say. That's my ultimate description of this movie. And I have very detailed notes that I took because this movie started being like, I gotta stop, pause the movie. I have to write that down for the podcast.
Yeah, when I should say that I was very happy to watch this movie again, and
it's an interesting movie. I don't think it's a good one.
Okay, interesting.
To be honest,
I wore this movie out. 2005, 2006. This is nostalgia. No, it's not this because I don't have a crusade about it. This is just.
I just meant like it's a movie you've watched so much that you analyze it like really deep or whatever.
If there were 3 movies that were regularly rented at the Augusta, Arkansas DVD place, it was
That's the name of the store. No, that's the name of it, people.
There was a sauna in the back too. The DVD place, the video store. For me, it was Brick, Shaun of the Dead, and what would have been another one around that time?
The Count of Monte Cristo. I don't know.
Not quite. No. But like those 2 were frequent movies that I rented. Yeah. It was like Brick and Shaun of the Dead.
I don't know. Hot Fuzz is probably the other one.
Hot Fuzz was a little later, but those are the first 2 come to my mind that I was like rented frequently because I was like, these movies feel like they were closer made for me, like or like Kill Bill. Like I rented Kill Bill a lot, I rented Brick a lot, and I rented Shaun of the Dead a lot. And so this was like kind of the beginning of me sort of looking at giant finger quotes indie cinema. Indie films, like you look at this movie, and I think it had been recommended to me by a friend at school.
This is the most indie movie that's ever existed.
Yeah,
maybe like the only more indie you could get is like the person behind the camera is also like the writer and the producer, like he's the actor, and his brother holding the boom mic is also like.
Yeah, if you're doing like lo-fi, you could end up like with American Movie, or you start getting into like Dogme 95 movies, or like where it's just literally like almost a documentary. Because I also had seen Garden State when it had come out. So Garden State was kind of like a movie that may be worth rewatching at some point. It kind of was just of its era. If you want to know what the early 2000s are like, go watch Garden State. That'll tell you all about it.
I agree.
And that great soundtrack.
Yeah.
But both that movie was like, wow, Zach Braff wrote, directed, acted, essentially produced, and put the soundtrack together for this movie. Wow, that means anybody can do this. Yeah. And I think someone hooked me onto Brick and was like, you should check this movie out.
I think this movie would show anyone can do this. Should anyone do it?
Well, I think Rian Johnson should have, because look where his career went.
That's true. I think this is a interesting portent of things to come. For
stylistically, because you brought up that it's like this shows that it's a very, very low budget film with a lot of people who are going to go on and do other things.
Megan Good, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, that one guy who's in all of his movies
is Nick Sagan.
Yes, like there's probably not as big as Joseph Gordon-Levitt or whatever.
Right. But Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the biggest person to come out of this movie, really.
But I'll get to some. I think we should just dive right into it.
Let's dive right into it.
I think the big thing that I don't even know if it's a criticism, but it's a thing I notice is the people in this movie are not real.
No,
they don't exist in real life.
No, not at all. Because
every time Joseph Gordon-Levitt walks up to someone who's leaning up against a wall with one foot up,
smoking a cigarette,
I'm like, I get it. You like noir movies.
You just want to put it in a Los Angeles high school.
High school kids are not this cool. They're not cool enough to say these lines. They're not cool enough to smoke these cigarettes. Have you tried say? I have a list of dialogue. I'm gonna quote. From
please, yeah, I'm gonna smile at each one of them.
And I'm just like, when I think of this
he
movie,
was a sap. You're playing him. That means you knew he was a sap. And that makes you a player. That means I can't trust you.
And if I close my eyes and imagine like Humphrey Bogart saying these lines, he was a sap. It means I couldn't trust you. Man, like I get it.
Oh yeah, he totally cribbed from Raymond Chandler. Like it's all that. That's where I learned the word argot.
Yeah.
Like argot or whatever. It's like Rian Johnson was like, yeah, I took a bunch of 1920s, 1930s, 1940s argot, just put it in the mouths of hipster high school students.
Yeah, and I think it's a
gimmicky film.
It is.
Yes.
It's such a jarring thing that it affects my ability to watch the movie outside of itself.
Okay.
Like I can't watch it for the story and be like get engulfed in the story because I'm like, that's not what. And I was like, high school students aren't capable of doing these things.
They aren't.
Have you been in high school?
Though there is that one line I love a lot when he goes to visit Richard Roundtree, when he goes to visit Shaft.
Yeah.
Because shafts the vice principal, the cop essentially,
he's like,
the bull.
He's like, you're on the edge, fan. Yeah, I can't come out there with you. And I was like, I need your gun and your badge.
I gave him to you to see him eat, not to see you fed.
Yeah.
He makes a line about like, hey, that was a really smart line. He's like, Mrs. Somebody's advanced English. Yeah. She's tough but fair. And I'm like, so
here's how like a kid would respond to that. Like, she's tough but fair. And like
sure, I guess. Whatever.
There are not people this wordy in real life.
Yeah.
And that's it makes the movie entertaining in a weird way, because I'm always like, all right, I'll keep watching. Like, it's that way. I'm going to quote the dialogue.
Go ahead. Continue on. I'll reserve myself.
So the purpose of this movie is it is a murder mystery, and he's trying to figure out what happened to
Emily. Yeah. Brendan Fry is a loner high school student outcast who also happens to be kind of an amateur gumshoe a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's been...
I see the Spike from Cowboy Bebop thing. It's not nearly as like bouncy.
No, he's not as bouncy as Spike. He's not an animated character, but he might as well be.
Yeah. There's a particular scene where he is looking for M, and he goes to find M by talking to this other guy who, although we don't, and I'm going to do full spoilers because this movie's old, and if you haven't seen it by now, you're probably never going to.
You should. I think you should. I think this could use a remaster.
Yeah.
Like, it's a fun movie.
It's worth seeing, if for nothing else, to know what we're talking about and to like experience it yourself.
Yes.
I can't remember the guy's name, because they all have names that are like...
Is he going to see Dode at the pie shop?
No.
Because I know all the characters.
Well, it's the guy who's hanging out with the burnouts in that parking lot.
That is.
Is that Dode? Okay,
yeah, it's Noah Sagan's character.
Yeah, let me
Scram, dig.
Let me let's read this. Hey, Brendan, maybe you shouldn't be here. I'm like,
maybe you shouldn't be here.
Why is the maybe there? And I was like, Cara told me you know where M is at. Uh-huh. Why are you looking for M? I don't know. You don't know? Look, man, I got plenty on my plate to deal with some jilted ex. It's not about that. Or whatever it's about. Act smarter than you look and drop it.
Yeah.
What?
Act smarter than you look and drop it. And he punches him in the face, then does the great line to the other ones. Something he says,
come on, I'll take all 6 of you. I
have all 5 senses and I slept last night. That puts me the 6 up the lot of you.
Yeah. And I was like, it's like crazy.
Hey, when I was 15, that was a badass line.
Yada yada. They talk about stuff, and there's this line, and he goes, "So M was here." Like, yeah, she told me to shake you if you came by, and I was like, I think it's there's some more here. You might know some of these lines because you've read the movie.
I was very surprised watching it again.
Yeah, when the upper crusty do their shady deeds, they do them at different parts of town. Here's how a normal person says that: when rich people do drugs, they go to this place.
Or like when all those shitheel upperclassmen do weird stuff, you know, they go sleep someone's house.
Yeah,
she's that movie.
She's gone. Can't raise her.
Can't raise her.
You think you can get the straight? Maybe break some deserving teeth. I think my problem is I'm too smart. Not too smart. I don't want to be smug. It's against the pop. I've seen too many movies to let this movie pass unscrutinized. I think that's all that it is. Mm-hmm. I think also the Pin is the funniest character. It's so funny. I don't know if it's intentional. It's definitely intentional. But But I was like, driving around in that van.
Yeah, with a lamp in there and everything. Well, the movie is aware that it lives in a world because all this criticism is absolutely accurate.
It's true, but the movie,
and I've heard it from a lot of different people where like, this movie is a cartoon. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but Johnson knows it is.
I absolutely believe he knows that it is.
It's just,
I think he's writing a movie like, what if we took the dialogue from the Maltese Falcon and then put it in
high school?
A bunch of, but also like the high school itself is weird because like they're worshiping Megan Good's character. There's always some weird freshman.
Yep.
Doing
she's like the femme fatale like nightclub owner, but she's the theater kid.
Yeah, and I'm always
and they used to have a thing. It's like, Brendan, if you ever get lonely, you can always. He's just like, you're nothing but trouble, sister.
I've seen this. Nah, like, you and me are over, Dave. Yeah. We've had our time in the sun. Like, it's always that. And there's a hilarious fight in this movie where he fights the black dude who's dating
the football star,
yes, who's also a low level dealer, I think.
Yes.
They have a hilarious fight.
Yes.
That I can only be described as it is as cartoony as the dialogue of this movie, in the sense that no real fight has
happened. It's just
anyone who's been in a real fight knows that's not what it's like.
And I'll come back to that scene and a couple of the fight scenes to point something that I think is very interesting about this movie.
Yeah. For a movie that is as goofy as it does have some good performances and a very weird avant-garde soundtrack.
I like that. I was amazed how it's very sparse. It was all done by Rian Johnson's brother, like Matt Johnson or something.
It's all cans rattling together.
Or it's like loungy piano or very sparse guitar that doon doon doon. Yeah. I was like, I'm already back in 2015, 2005, like that. Everyone has a very particular style and look. Like no one really changes clothes, so everyone is in costume, including whether it's a wife beater and a beanie.
The Pins thug man.
Yeah, Tug.
He plays to beat up everybody or whatever. There's a scene where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is picking up a rock to smash out his window, and we just see him just walking like a weird bulldog towards him,
squeezing his hands.
And I was like, first of all, fuck this dude, break that window, because he's gonna punch you in the face anyway. Right. In the weird way that like he punches Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he gets up, he gets punched again, and then he gets up, and he gets punched again, and I'm like, what is this? What is this movie?
Well, but each time it's different. And each time it's a different framing.
Take me to the pin.
A lot of this movie is just Rian Johnson playing with style. Yeah. Like I'll be out and say
playing with a narrative trope.
Yes. Well, I think the narrative trope is just there to service him testing things out as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I want to try cool angles. I want to try cause and effect things. Like one of my favorite little fight scenes in it, the one that's people say is very Cowboy Bebop-y, is when the chase scene with the knife guy, and they're running around. You just hear the squeak of the shoes.
What kind of high school has hitmen chases in it?
That is kind of a silly.
There's never children in the school either.
No,
it's always abandoned.
Yeah,
there's never kids like, oh, class is over, we gotta go. Like, there's a chase scene. That would have made it so much more interesting.
It is so sparse.
It's dodging between teachers as you're about to be murdered.
Yeah, this is a Los Angeles high school, a very popular one. There's thousands of kids who go here. Not on this film set though. Yeah, it takes place in La La Land. Like it takes place in
I like the part that he's running like with big lanky strides or
and,
whatever.
And the audio of it is like Brendan's squeaky shoes versus this guy's thudding boots, and then and you hear it coming closer. He takes his shoes off and slides him.
Such a gamble, by the way.
Yeah.
At the very least, you trip him. At the very worst, you miss him completely, and he stabs you to death.
Right. Which is
the middle ground. He just trips and falls, and then gets up and kills you.
Right. But that's not this movie. That's not this world.
Everything is weirdly convenient.
Yes.
And
again,
but
the story.
Old movies are like that. Though.
Yeah.
So I'll give it like movies are about things. So if nothing, like Blade Runner 2049 had a bunch of things where I was like, where isn't that weirdly convenient? But I was like, what am I talking about? I want things to happen.
Yeah, I want things. Like, if this was realistic, the movie would be over in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
This is everything kind of. So what this is plot wise is, yes, it's a murder mystery. Brendan finds out that his ex-girlfriend Emily, who he had this kind of controlling, controversial, troublesome relationship with, is dead. He hides her body and says, he brings out his buddy the Brain. Of course, he's the Brain
because he has glasses on.
Yeah, and he works Rubik's
He's one
cubes.
of only two people at this high school.
Yeah,
apparently.
There's nobody else here
except for Megan Good's weird fetishy drama class.
Right, like where she's Queen Bee.
Yeah, apparently.
And he's like, I'm going back into the shit. Like, because it's like you hear this backstory about like him and this kid. They ran together, and then he sold him out, and it's kind of like my old partner. He got whacked, you know. Like, and he has to go to vice principal, and he's like, I need you to get off my back for a while. And he's like, I can only do so much if the cops get involved.
It's the goofiest Frank Miller story that's ever been written.
Yeah, because it's if a bunch of kids wanted to be Frank Miller characters.
Yeah, one of them, Mike Tug would be just prepubescent Marv.
Yeah, but it's also about like all these characters existing in this hyper stylized world and consequences are happening. Yeah. Like someone's dead, people get killed.
I also was very.
It's kind of one thing I want to bring up in the plot. It's very much Brendan is playing the Yojimbo man with no name thing. He's playing both sides against each other. He goes in deep to find the Kingpin, who is an actor who's been around for a while. His name I can't remember.
Yeah. Who's hilarious. He has a cane.
Yes.
And his mother seems like she's the only real person in this movie.
It is Lucas Haas. Lucas Haas.
That's the dude from I can't remember what he's from. I know who that is though.
He was a child actor. He's been in a ton of stuff for years. He was in Mars Attacks. He was the kid in Mars Attacks.
I haven't seen that.
Back in the day. Yeah, then he was kind of like a cool beat kid for a while, and he's still acting. He's in A Violent Heart and a couple of other stuff. He was in The Revenant. He's kind of a character actor now, and he's the Kingpin. He's the Pin. I want to see the Pin. Yeah, and it's like, well, the Pin's kind of a local spook story. They even say he's like, I hear he's old, like 20.
And I was like, that's not old. So I wanted to say,
but for a bunch of 30-year-olds playing 15-year-olds in a 90210 situation, he's the old guy, and he's just kind of he talks about Tolkien a little bit, and they have this speech on the beach, like, we read Tolkien. The Hobbit movies, the Hobbit books. Yeah. I like the way he describes things. Makes you want to be there. And it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. But eventually, as the bodies pile up and as drama builds and questions are answered.
First of all, do bodies pile up? One body piles up at some point.
Well,
by the end,
there's like a bunch of people dead.
Yeah.
But we only hear about it. Because all the while, Brandon is kind of being led by this mysterious femme fatale who's kind of involved with all parties.
Yeah. What's her name?
She is.
I'm going to edit all the silence out because it's going to be a lot of me acting. Who's that person?
Who's that person?
Who is this? What is that guy?
It's
Laura.
Laura is the mysterious.
She's the dangerous other femme fatale. He only knows femme fatales or shivering, about to fall apart women.
Yeah, just
every noir character.
All kinds of dangerous dames.
Yeah, and
thankfully no one calls anyone a dame in this movie. They're at least a little wised up.
I would turn it off and all right, I'm watching Game of Thrones or something.
Johnson, I think, balances something really, really important in this movie, which is he's able to work tone well. At least for me, I think the tone stays pretty consistent.
The tone stays consistent. It's just a weird movie.
It's a weird tone
that is jarring.
Yes,
but the tone is never inconsistent.
Because the other thing is, there's one
moment where the tone is inconsistent. It's like when he meets the Pin and his mom is giving him this thing.
Because that's the nod. That's like the wink. Like, hey, we know
these guys
silly.
Are idiots or whatever.
Yeah, we know these are all children. Yeah, this is not a real world. Because do you want orange juice?
Yeah.
That's fine, ma'am.
I'll give it to you in a weird country glass.
You do a nice country glass.
I found it weird that Joseph Gordon-Levitt, when he finds her body, is not emotionally overcome for someone he's so obsessed with.
Yeah.
I thought that was...
Well, he's not... He's kind of emotionally broken through the whole movie, because one of the noir things I actually really like about this movie, and I didn't notice it until I watched other noir films, is that he gets repeatedly beaten, and he gets. It's like if you've ever played Doom and like the guy's like profile up there, every time he gets shot or beaten, it starts getting worse and worse and worse until it's a skeleton. Yeah. That's him through the whole movie.
Yeah.
That's the noir trope of he's so dogged, he spends the most of the movie getting injured until he's just spitting up blood. Yeah. And he's like, I can't rest until I see this through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it very weird that like he doesn't weep for her, but then like later with Laura in the bed, he cries.
Yeah, he breaks down.
Yeah, and I was like, I think I would have bought this movie a little. Not that I don't buy the movie. It's a weird
purchase.
If anything, the movie,
it's hard to buy.
The movie exists outside of me, and my opinion on it means nothing in a way. But like, I think I would have liked it more if the characters were less stoic, because I'll believe good dialogue in any number. Like Tarantino's movies are wordy as all get out.
Yeah, and everyone talks very much like they've had a lot of time to think about what they're saying.
Exactly,
because everybody's cool.
So I think I would have bought that a lot more if these people were a lot less like everyone goes through the movie like they know what's about to happen in this movie.
You're right about that.
Yes, there's a part.
No one is very shocked about what's going on.
No, and there's a part that like when he first meets Laura and she's hanging out with the football guy, and she goes, "I'll go get him. Like, you wait here. Don't go anywhere." And then I was like, and she slowly walks away. I was like, first of all, give the move faster, movie. And I was like, there's all sorts of like long, slow pace editing things.
And this is a director, of course, trying to find out if all this works.
Yeah.
Because it's also a lot of really great shots, like a lot of great angles.
It's like me shooting my music videos. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Maybe I could do that next time.
I mean, that's kind of like, I have to imagine Rian Johnson doing a lot of that. That looks cool. That has a lot of that. Because you see little things of this that pop up in his other movies. That's what's interesting about this is you can kind of look at this as a very fresh palette and then go all the way to like Last Jedi or especially
Looper.
Knives Out.
Oh yeah, that's
and
right.
see what his idea of action in a low key space like.
Knives Out is another example of a movie where like it is very wordy, but I believe that a lot more for some reason. And it's still it's a murder mystery, but I'm also like, why do I believe that, but I don't believe this?
Because they're all adults.
Children?
It's all adults.
Maybe.
And it's more, and he's had 15 years to develop a style and all that. Because there's one thing I notice is in various parts, like at the party sequence in Brick, and later you see someone light up a match in the background.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be the pin, or it's somebody. It's somebody who's been watching the whole time. They do that in Knives Out. Like there's a scene when Marta comes out, and you see and it's Benoit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood going, "Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
Do you see that?" Do you have any thoughts about like the ending, how everything kind of finds itself out?
I think it's good, but again, it exists in that weird paradigm of everyone is so clever, or not everyone's not so clever. He's so clever that I'm almost like, why is he so? Why is he able to do this so well?
You talking about Johnson?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about
Brendan,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's
character.
And I'm like, why does everyone trust him to such a degree?
That is kind of weird. That it's like this drug dealer who has this heroin market, which is like a big deal. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, you're in. And it's like he trusts him up to the very end, even when after all negotiations break down.
Also, why would you keep such a weird, like, impulsive man like Tug around?
Yeah.
Also, the hitman that tries to kill Brandon is just some guy who went rogue.
No, this is one thing I don't. When it's like, oh, I found out about the knife guy. He was hired by the football guy to go embarrass you. I'm like, oh.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, he's like, he was connected with Brad Bramish. He came out. He was doing it because you beat him up.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But I was like, so like we have this whole like chase. Yeah, that I didn't even know that. That just added a weird.
Yeah, that's one thing. There are parts of this movie where I'm just like, yeah, I didn't think that through or really care that much. He just wanted that scene to be cool.
I think as a first movie that I'm watching, it's interesting, and there's a good attention to like mise en scene and details and certain things. Where,
it's very well storyboarded.
When he talks to M on the phone, and then the car drives by, and you see the cigarette. He's like, "Oh, I recognize the cigarette. I see it now." Like,
and it comes back later because he asks Tug like, "Hey, can I have a cigarette?" He's like, "I don't smoke." And he's like, "I saw you smoke." And he's like, "I don't smoke cigarettes."
Yeah, and I was like, "Interesting." Yeah, and I think that's good.
You're putting the clues together, but another problem is
but it's not just from a filmmaking standpoint. It's good that he's careful enough to like drop these things in the right way, and like how you frame it with the camera means something when you see it later and stuff. Like it's as a first film, it's interesting. I don't know if I would say it's good. I think it's good in the sense that like, well, I was interested and I never stopped watching. So like, I can't say that the movie's bad, but I don't know if it's nowhere near like as good as like Looper
or Knives Out. No,
Last Jedi. Like these are different movies in a way. Looper is the closest, like feels the closest to this.
Yeah.
But obviously it's just like a guy with $400,000, which is nothing when it comes to a film
student like in California.
That probably went to like paying the editor, buying the lenses or something, and maybe paying for catering and for people.
Yeah, because I'm sure Joseph Gordon-Levitt was like not. This was at the beginning of his takeoff.
This is like around the time he did another movie that I love him in called The Lookout.
I was going to say The Lookout was shortly after this.
Yeah, and which also has Jeff Daniels, and they come back to Looper, where they also work together again. Like,
forgot that's right.
Jeff Daniels plays the blind guy.
Yeah.
That's a great movie, and it shows how great Joseph Gordon-Levitt is. And I think one of the things is I've come to
because also Sin City came around the same time, and he plays the he's in the,
fucking I can't remember the character's name. He's good in that too.
Yeah.
But that movie's not good, but he's good. It's weird to see him be so good in a movie like The Lookout, where he has to deal with mental trauma and got people killed. And
because he's like,
barely
he was in a car
together.
wreck and he has brain damage. And,
but like seeing him be so stoic, I don't find it nearly as interesting for some reason. And some of the dialogue is, I guess if you're a kid who's trying to act and you're a director who's trying to make a movie, you want to have fun dialogue. So this movie gave you an excuse to like people have to listen to hear this dialogue.
It's a nice cheat because you already have cool adult dialogue and you're just like, hey, cool, just say it.
Cool being in brackets.
Yes,
here.
cool in the like.
This is a nerd's idea of what cool dialogue is.
It is. Don't get me wrong. It is. It is cool with an emoji with the sunglasses on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. But I imagine if you're making a movie, also it's very poorly sound mixed, so you have to turn it up and like really listen to the dialogue. That did bother
me. Yeah. Then again, I also have a lot of that dialogue in my head.
Yeah.
For
and the dialogue comes
years.
so quick, you have to pay attention or watch it with subtitles or whatever, which I did for half the movie. But I can imagine if you're a first-time director and you're like, I want to do something that's weird and different. This movie isn't a bad thing as a first shake. I've run out of things to say about it.
When I was 15 or so when this movie came out, its technical achievement, like what Johnson was able to do, because I wanted to be a filmmaker as a kid. I was running around with a camera making movies with my friends. Yeah. And one of the big things was I loved cinematography. I loved good photography. I loved good shots. I mean, that's kind of beginner film nerds thing, is you like movies that look good.
Yeah.
And
you're like, how do you do that?
Yeah, how do you do that? And I was like, this movie was made with a small budget, and he gets these very dramatic shots from speeding things up, slowing things down, point, and that still shows to me. Yeah. Like,
there's a shot in the phone booth that I thought was really nice as well.
Yeah, and
there's one where like he is getting lens flared by the sun and it's outlining his face. I was like, that's really cool.
When he does the dream, when he thinks about Emily in the trash bag, yeah, they just essentially just put trash bags on a tie, brought it down, and pulled it over, and then cut to them pulling it over Joseph Gordon-Levitt in bed.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's cool in brackets if you are a 15-year-old nerdy kid from a small town, and boy was it cool for me.
Yeah.
I agree. For anybody who didn't, this is nostalgia piece for me. This is big time nostalgia that has not aged for me at all.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for this kind of camp. I recognize it's camp. Yeah. I recognize
when I sent you the text about this movie, I said, this movie is ... because I think you know what I was going to say.
And I was halfway into it like, great.
You were like, what's he going to say? And I just wanted to keep my thoughts to myself. I think you knew I probably would say these things about this movie.
I actually thought you would like it more, but
I like it. But I like it fine. I think it's a good movie in the sense that, like, I always say a movie is a camera pointing at people pretending to be other people. Mm-hmm. So it's like when you look at a movie, like, it's supposed to entertain you and keep your time going and maybe stay with you a little bit afterwards if it's good. The best movies are the ones that I still think about today. So like this movie is good in the sense that like it entertained me. I think if a movie is self-aware, I give it a wide berth to do a lot of things. Pacific Rim as a movie I think is ridiculous, but I think it knows. The director knows what kind of movie it is, so he does things that I'm like, I don't care about that. That's fine. Right. So like the same thing.
That's kind of how I am with
the same thing with this movie is I'm like, that's fine. Yeah. I know that's not real. I can pretend that like these are all people from what's another old timey noir movie?
Well, you said Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, the Maltese Falcon.
There's a Maltese Falcon or a Blast of Silence or something like that.
I'll just pretend it's like that because it's playing around with narrative tropes, but in an environment that those tropes would never exist in. But I was like, that's irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
I think at the time, because I was coming off of something like Sin City and all that, I was hot into noir and neo-noir.
Like, because Sin City came out around the same time.
Yeah.
Sin City, for me, was this movie for you.
Yes,
because I love violence and comic books a lot. So, like, when I saw Sin City, I was like, I love this.
And I liked in different tropes and things put into different styles.
Yeah.
And this was all that. And also that it was a small budget film that looked really good.
And also Sin City has the benefit of being like, it's a bunch of stories that don't have anything to do with each other.
Right.
It's just
this is one single, Yojimbo style narrative where someone's playing both sides in order to get moral revenge.
I would say if it's your first movie and it's for $400,000 and you just basically filmed on the weekends at a school, because that's what happened probably.
They did, they did.
They shot it in 20 days. I went down the Wikipedia hole and read a little bit about it. So like, I think it's
got done in a month.
It's a sturdy movie. It's silly, but silly movies can still be good movies. So I think it's okay.
Yeah, I guess my last thoughts on it is like if you didn't have those moments of self-awareness, if you didn't have those little moments like when he's in the VP's office or when they go to the Penn's mom or the movie has no...
I would think that if they didn't have those moments, I would think the director genuinely thinks like this is so cool.
Yeah.
But I know he thinks it's cool,
but he's aware that it's silly,
and dumb. Yeah,
like the movie because the movie is so based in another world, there's no real swear words in it. So the one time at the end when it turns out Laura was the perpetrator, she's the kind of the
which I saw coming from a mile away.
She's kind of everywhere.
It's not what it's about; it's how it's about it, or whatever.
And you find out about that Emily was pregnant and everything, and then she leans up to him and says, "I got one word for you, you mother," and it cuts off right there. And it's just like the only time there would have been any swear gets cut off, and the brain says, "What'd you call you?" He says, "You called me a dirty word." And it's like that's another little thing where it's like, I got you there. That makes sense. And also because he's a motherfucker because he's the father.
Yeah, that's true.
Last things on it, clever, sharp. If you liked Knives Out and you want to see something that is very much the Play-Doh of that's like well-crafted thing, check out Brick. It's short.
The
it's
best way
sweet,
to watch this movie is as a precursor to what he would do later.
Yeah, because you're not going to have the same nostalgia as I do. You're not in 2005. It is very much a movie of its era. Yeah, it's just if you like Rian Johnson's style, if you've liked his last movies, regardless of how you feel about Last Jedi, well, even if Last Jedi in context, see what
The Last Jedi did make 1 point something billion. People like it.
Well, it's like go to Brick and see like is there anything in there that may have you saw in even Last Jedi, like
weird, but not without merit. Is how I would describe this movie.
That's fair.
Yeah. Let's talk about yours. I'm gonna let you start it off.
Oh, chimpanzee that. Let's talk some apes. Let's go apes.
So I have loved this trilogy in particular.
This is my first. Obviously, this is my first time watching this series.
I let it on a previous episode.
Yeah, I let this one slide because I was never a big Planet of the Apes person to begin with.
Me neither.
And I was just kind of like, maybe this will be a movie that like I'm hanging out.
Tim Burton one. I hate most of the 70s.
I never bothered with that.
I've seen the original one, and I'm like, it's fine. I guess
my dad liked the original, obviously, and I know people who are big stans of the whole trilogy, but they're kind of like fans of like when you hear people talk about Godzilla, like they get what it is and they love it.
Yeah, watching the old Apes movies is like being a Superman fan and watching the 70s movies. You appreciate the history, but you recognize it doesn't work today.
Yeah.
I mean,
the first one was written by Rod Serling. Okay. So the original The Planet of the Apes was written by Rod Serling. It was kind of this Twilight Zone sort of thing. It's a movie that still stands up really well, but it is, of course, like I said, of its era. It's a bunch of people in ape costumes. And the idea of bringing that back with this kind of serious tone and everything.
You were like not 100% sure about it.
I was like, if this is a movie that if I'm hanging out with friends, having some drinks, and they're like, you want to throw on Rise of the Planet of the Apes? I'll be like, hell yeah, sure, let's do it. But that day never came. Until the blind date.
Made you do it. I twisted your
arm. What you followed this three trilogies.
Yeah, I saw this movie, this one, just kind of on a whim, and I remember I'll show my cards on the table. I remember really liking it, and I like it less in retrospect of what follows it because it became Andy Serkis's sort of magnum opus in a way, and I think it's like I said earlier, the thinking man's blockbuster. Because the way it deals with themes and to talk about like when you look at the trilogy as a whole, it's like the mythological story of man. He is born and then he comes to know loss and then he comes to know like a sense of restlessness and spirit and then he has to venture out and it's mythological in a weird way. And I kind of didn't really fully appreciate that till like years after I had seen all three of them or whatever. But this movie on its own, I just thought it's just good fun.
Which is yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get into the nitty gritty, of course, to get into the. I was surprised how empathetic it was for so long. I was. There were parts of me that was just kind of like, oh, I know where this is going. Let's get to the apes.
Yeah.
And
I'm the same way.
But
it's a short movie. It's less than 2 hours.
Yeah, that's when I watched. That's why I decided to watch. When I watched Dawn, I decided I was like, I'm not gonna watch it the same night because that's a little longer. Yeah. And I was like, this is a short enough movie that I can watch this and Brick on the same night. Yeah. Because they're both short movies. I think Brick is longer than than this.
Feels longer.
So it is very much. So we're in San Francisco. It is James Franco getting to be a very empathetic and likable character.
Yeah. He's working on an Alzheimer's drug.
Yes, he's working on an Alzheimer's drug. What's his name? Plays another stuffy British boss.
I can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
David Oyelowo.
Yeah.
Or Oyelowo plays stuffy boss man. There's a couple of other things, and you get a really great opening, which is that they're taking care of this mother ape and everything, giving her the drug, because we don't know quite yet why they're doing it, because he's about to give like this big speech and everything to sell the company, and she gets loose and goes nuts, and the security guards just shoot this poor monkey.
Most
dead.
Unrealistic thing in the movie is the multi-billion-dollar corporation would kill their asset.
Right.
They would.
Yeah.
They would trank it or something. But yeah.
But yeah. No. Well, also this guy didn't know what he was doing. He just blasts this monkey and it just falls dead on there. But you find out that her baby Caesar, as will be, has inherited her genetic ability for
she
this.
Was pregnant when they brought her in.
Yes,
they didn't know that.
They didn't know that, and so that introduces our character because James Franco is obviously like he's a genius. He's a chemical expert genius and a biologist, but his father,
it's John Lithgow,
great John Lithgow in this, always great John Lithgow. But John Lithgow is another person that makes a movie better.
Yeah,
like
he's a great piano man in this movie.
Great piano man. He's a music guy, but he has Alzheimer's, and he plays it so good.
Yeah,
which they do it sparingly, and I'm glad because
it's
it
so
would have.
Good that when he gets better, you feel happy.
You feel better for him.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the start, but they have to keep Caesar there, and he names him Caesar after Julius Caesar, and because he's also big. He's John Lithgow. I'm John Lithgow. Yeah. You're Caesar. Hail Caesar. And I'm just like, yes, good, delightful.
Yeah.
But he can't stay there for long because he's essentially growing. He's doubling his intelligence twice the age of what he is.
Essentially.
Yeah. It's like by the time he's 3 years old in being an ape or 5 years old, he already has the knowledge of like a 11-year-old, a human. So he's gaining knowledge and he's becoming aware. And so they have to adjust to that. But things, takes him out to the redwoods, lets him play in Muir Woods and everything. And
you had that montage of as he grows up. By the time we meet him at the end of that montage, he is about what the director I think said he's about 18 to 20 years old.
Yes.
He's on the cusp of manhood, essentially, which is, again, like talking about the theme, it's like by the last movie, and I don't want to spoil the last movie, but Caesar talks.
Yes.
In these movies.
In this one, it's one of the best moments in the film. Like
Caesar is home.
Well,
great.
The one before that,
no,
I had to pause. I was like,
it's great,
because I remember people talking about those two sequences,
and that's Planet of the Apes lore. The first ape in the other movies he was an ape that he was the first ape, and the first word he ever said was no. And I was like, it's great lore. And I thought that was a great little piece of. That's just something I barely kind of knew.
I didn't know about that at all.
So it kind of ties into the other movie a little bit.
That was something. Those sequences were the ones that everyone had been talking about, like saying, "Hey, one of the big reasons why this movie stands out, one of the most iconic scenes in blockbusters recently was when Caesar speaks."
Yeah,
like that, and how much that tore the house down.
Yeah. And once he gets to like midway through the movie and he has his incident where the drug starts to wear off of Lithgow after about 5-6 years. And by the way,
he starts building an antibody.
And by the way, an Alzheimer's drug that gives you that level of clarity for 6 years is a godsend.
Yeah.
And the fact that the company doesn't want to do it is
really, really ridiculous. But it's a don't worry about it. Hey,
as
apes.
you say, it's a good old don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But he accidentally gets in a guy's car and this guy points his finger at him and Caesar goes literally ape shit.
Yeah.
and like
and he beats the shit out of him because he's just this jackass next door.
Yeah.
Who ends up becoming patient zero for everything else coming up.
He's taken to a sanctuary thing where we meet a lovely cast of characters who become our ragtag team through the rest of these movies.
Yeah. Baby. Oh boy, I love them.
Yeah.
But first, you're introduced to Brian Cox, which is always a red flag.
Yeah.
If Brian Cox is involved in something, it's like he's corrupt.
He's William Stryker,
and
he's the uncle from Braveheart.
And poor Tom Felton. Draco Malfoy himself, just playing a shitheel, a horrible person. He's very good at it because he gets to do the other iconic line.
Get your damn hands off me, you dirty ape.
Get your filthy, your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape.
Yeah.
And that's when you get, no! Yeah. And even it cuts to
the other apes.
Maurice and the other ones going, damn! Yeah. Had to get that part out early because I rewound it like 3 times.
It's a good song. It's a solid movie for sure. I think that the best stuff in this movie is watching Caesar, his eyes being opened to the world in a way, in a very cynical kind of way. And I think that's the stuff that sells this movie.
He communicates so much about what he's thinking and how he's able to recognize what's going on and try to understand it to his, like you said, his cynicism, all without not saying anything. I thought about something weird. There should be a cut of this movie that's just green screen or just no CGI Caesar, so we could just watch Andy Serkis perform.
I've seen behind the scenes thing
because he does some facial acting that is so consistent. Acting note, everybody, real quick. Dialogue is just great, but if you can be in character physically every little bit, that's real acting.
The scene where James Franco and Frida Pinto tell him you're not going home and he's behind the glass whacking on it. The scene, watch that without the CGI on.
I want to.
It's just his face. Yeah. And it's just exactly the same thing, really.
Because another thing about acting, like they teach you in acting theory and everything, is you embody that character every moment. So if you are done with your scene, like in a play, and you have to sit down, and you know the audience isn't paying attention to you, if you take that moment to just slip back into yourself, someone's probably going to notice that because you've just cut the energy down. Yeah. Like all of a sudden you've been Sir Aristocrat the Fourth and you're just going to sit down. I'm going to have my wine. Madam Aristocrat can talk with the others and you just kind of slouch and you just kind of go back into yourself. You betrayed the character. Serkis doesn't do that for a second. And he is.
And he only gets better in these movies as he does that. The last one, I think.
I almost think it becomes easier for him because he gets to just be more closer to a person.
Yeah. Hearing that solid American accent in the third one when he talks like Woody Harrelson in it is really good.
We'll have to. I'll get to that because I don't know any of that.
Yeah,
I've not seen War.
Yeah, it's good, but they're all good to some degree.
Yeah,
different people's rankings are at different places.
I feel like these 3 movies probably have varying kind of reminiscences of something like the Nolan Batmans, where it's like everyone's like, hey, no, The Dark Knight is amazing, but I still have a lot of respect for Batman Begins.
Yeah,
there's a lot about this movie I like and really enjoy that is simply just that it is a prequel to a movie that I know is coming.
Yeah. I like how he navigates prison yard politics.
Yeah.
By making friends with the baddest motherfucker in the pen.
And lets him free.
Yeah.
And then dominates over
Rocket.
Yeah. And he's just like,
they all become their own interesting characters as this movie goes on too.
When does Koba show up? He's not in this one.
Koba is in here. He is the one who kicks the helicopter off.
That's right.
Remember the one who like puts his hand out for the cookie? Yeah. He's been in labs his whole life.
That's right.
A little backstory that we don't. The second movie works without that.
Yeah.
But it just adds to that later.
That's the thing is like when I started watching. When I watched Dawn, I was like, could Dawn have existed without this movie and this be a prequel? Yes, but it would not have been as successful.
No.
Because getting to know these characters, Maurice, Rocket, Coletta.
Koba, Cornelia,
because it's Cornelius.
Cornelius is his baby boy.
Right.
And even like little things like the sign from his window becomes their banner for the apes. And like the symbol for apes together strong is the thing that he shows to Maurice. So it's a perfect first entry in that the second entry capitalizes on those things. Also, Toby Kebbell. I know we're not talking about Dawn right now.
Right.
Toby Kebbell is Koba. Is great.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah. He's a
also was Kong in the Jordan Vogt Roberts Skull Island movie.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, he's another body man.
He's gonna be like, someone's gonna keep casting him, and he's gonna keep being like mocap people.
Yeah,
which I think is good. I always said he would make a great Brainiac for like a Superman movie.
But he was already Dr. Doom.
Yeah,
right.
That's not the same thing.
Don't worry about it.
Stop. Don't talk about that movie.
Yeah, I really like when he goes there and he meets Maurice, and Maurice is like, I was a circus orangutan, and
his first little breath of fresh air
because he's like, hey, I can do sign.
Yeah.
So much of there's been so much time that the film gives to just sign language and no dialogue spoken.
Yeah.
And it's so effective.
The second one is like that too.
Yeah.
In fact, I even watched the second one and I turned off the subtitles for the signs, and I still got what they were talking about. Like in the again, I know we're not talking about the second one, but when Maurice is like, do you ever think about the humans? And he just kind of goes like with his body language and his shrugs, he tells you what he feels. Yeah, like I think that's another great thing about this movie is it shows good storytelling without having to use lots of dialogue. It's all kind of language and camera angles. Like even the scene where Brian Cox sees him teaching the apes, and then Caesar just turns around and looks at him, and like it's a very human look.
Oh, it's good. It's good because you can start to he just looks at him like, and that's when he's like, there's something wrong with that one. There's something up with that one. He knows something.
Good. Any more favorite moments you want to talk about?
Well, I guess we're just getting into spoilers for a movie that's old. Obviously, it's a new movie.
It's almost a decade old at this point.
And they fry Tom Felton. That's pretty great. Yeah. But the prison, like the great escape, the ape escape that they do. There's a couple of ape escapes.
Yeah.
I mean, I James Franco is kind of a tough territory because he's had a lot of accusations and allegations, and is kind of always has been an open secret, is kind of a scumbag, and I'm not here to talk about that.
That goes back to like Spider-Man.
Yeah, that goes back to his college and everything too. Like, well, in his acting school and everything, he's an acting teacher and all that, and he's really good in this movie.
Yeah,
like he's really warm, and it's not a role that I would have, because given that era, Franco, like this is
before he started doing 127 hours and stuff like that.
Yeah, but this was right after something like Pineapple Express, which is a movie I watched a lot. Like this is him still in comedy mode, but he's showing his chops, and this ends up being a character I'm like, I can't think of anyone else who could play this scrappy but likable sort of figure. It's almost like if this movie came out in the late 80s, I would have given it to given it to like a Kevin Bacon or something like that. Like,
yeah, I agree with that.
He's like an everyman, but a scruffy everyman, and his empathy shows really strong, which also shows the performance work he did with Circus. Yeah, like because they had to do so much of this just
a lot of
physically.
The baby circus stuff he's holding like a dummy.
Yeah,
like it's just like a big weird torso thing. And so that was cool. Yeah, I think the strength of these movies is the weakness of these movies, and that the apes are always more interesting than their human counterparts.
It's a little better in this movie because you get more time with them. Granted, there's a lot of people who are stereotypes, but once you go into
there's
like
the mean neighbor, and there's the greedy corporate suit, and
and then the evil animal controllers and everything, and eventually, like the only thing that's unique is Franco and Lithgow.
Yeah,
because even when the what's the actress?
Which one? Frida Pinto?
Yeah, Frida Pinto shows up. It's very convenient. It's like he really charms her.
She's like, so not there. You could write her out of the movie.
She's the love interest. Yeah. But I mean, she gets enough time to be supportive. Like she gets to be a protagonist with them. Yeah. And I mean, I like how they do the passage of time. Like a lot of time passes because it's like, the initial start, Caesar growing up, Lithgow getting better, Lithgow getting worse, Lithgow passing away.
The movie doesn't waste any time getting going.
No.
It goes right into its plot, which I was very thankful for. It's probably why it's so short, because they wrote the script smart.
Yeah. And director Rupert Wyatt knows how to set this up and get this going.
He was rumored to be doing the Green Lantern movie for the new DCEU slate, and then it fizzles into nothing. But I was like, I'd love for him to handle a motley
crew. The rest of his filmography I'm not familiar with. Like he kind of fell off a little bit. I
remember half of the other stuff that he does.
Which is a shame because he handled this movie very well.
Matt Reeves does the next two of these.
Which is important because Matt Reeves is a figure, and I can't wait to see War, because I think that's when everything kind of comes around.
It's not a war movie.
No.
So tame your expectations.
Oh, I'm not expecting.
The only thing that I didn't like is that I walked in there like I was expecting big battles, and it's not. You kind of get some of that, but not really.
Well, with Dawn, you're kind of like, I don't want a war. Like I want peace.
You do.
I want peace.
That's the good thing about this movie. The first one makes you root for the apes and like, I hate humanity. And the second one is like we can work it out, guys. And the third one is like, Woody Harrelson, you're a son of a bitch, and I don't like you. Like,
well, it wasn't even so much like with Rise that I was like, I hate humanity. But it's just we see the multifacetedness of it all, and I mean, eventually they go to the science lab
called Genesis.
They steal the science lab. They get the gas. They make everybody smart.
I love that scene when he the morning after he does that and they wake up. They all know, like, they see the world differently. Mm-hmm. There's a weird air of like, what is this?
Yeah. You woke up,
because usually when they wake up they're ornery and loud, and now they're all deathly quiet.
Yeah,
and as Rocket comes out, he tips his chin up so you can see his eyes, and they have the green in it. Mm-hmm. I was like, I like that too.
Because there's little great moments like when they first take Caesar to the zoo, and all the chimpanzees and all the apes just go quiet and just stare at him.
They just baby Caesar in the stroller.
Yeah, it is kind of like there's the Lord. It's kind of like a Jesus story. It's like there's our liberator.
Yeah, I think it's you could look at it in a messianic way. You could look at it as like the journey of man. In a way,
you could look at it as the breaker of chains, like this liberator who's coming to take you into nature again, to get you out of this. Because the film doesn't lose humanity, because you have you have Franco, and you have Penta, and you have John Lithgow, and you're reminded of the good side of people, and because it leads to everything leads up to this climactic battle on the Golden Gate Bridge, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And
I was
really,
gonna ask, like, for a movie that doesn't have fight scenes as much as it has big action set pieces. What did you think of the action, and what do you think of the visual effects in general on the apes?
I mean, it can't be perfect.
Keep in mind, this came out the same year as Green Lantern did.
Yeah, and it can't be perfect. Uncanny Valley will always exist. It's something we can't squash out of our brains or
but
everything.
That orangutan, pretty good.
Yeah. You talking about Maurice?
Yeah.
Maurice looks great. Yeah. He's my favorite character.
The gorilla looks pretty good too, although he looks like he moves too fast.
Yeah.
Like he's a little too quick.
Sometimes a little jerky. Obviously, because you get a lot of time with Caesar, you're going to notice some of the flaws here and there, but he looks great. You just let it go.
Yeah.
You're just okay with it, because it's like it's a character and it's a good movie, and they pace everything out so well, and they perform the motions. Clearly, they spend a lot of time watching a lot of zoo footage.
Yeah, Andy Serkis at this point had like every movie he did of these, he has like a getting in gorilla character boot camp, which is like and there's a funny clip of him on the Graham Norton show with Tom Holland where he goes, for the gorillas, they're like this, the chests are out.
Yep.
But the chimps are more hunched over like that. So he showed Tom Holland how to do it, and like when they're running on their fours, they have these little like mini crutches on their hands that they use it for. It's really cool.
That's really cool.
And he kind of, these are as much his movies, because Andy Serkis is 1 second away from directing his own movies. The Hobbit movies, he's the second unit director of all those, while also being an actor in all of these things. So like, I feel like it's just a matter of time before he's making like, this is an all motion capture movie, baby, and I'm the director. Like,
the future, buddy. I'm the one who's leading this in, because it's like me and several other people, Doug Jones and Toby Kebbell.
Yeah, more than anyone else, he's done Gollum. He did King Kong and the Peter Jackson one. All of these movies, he did Snoke. The guy is like.
And now that he's taken off the green screen suit and has showed himself in other things like Black Panther, he's a great actor. He's just good to watch.
Yeah.
Like, he's got a good face.
But all the motion capture people, they're all fighting for first loser, as far as I'm concerned.
It's you kind of get thing like what they say about for stunt people, where it's like the stunt people should have an Academy Award. I agree with that. And I agree with that, because it's an art. It's an art that has saved this medium for years.
Yeah, if anything, he deserves.
Many people have lost lives and limbs and livelihoods doing it.
if anything, he deserves one of those lifetime achievement awards from the Oscars. Because even if you can't be like, well, we can't give it to him for Gollum, but what about giving it to him for just like all 6 of those roles that I stated?
It's like doing it for Lon Chaney or doing it for Boris Karloff or
if I took De Niro and put dots on his face and made him motion capture, you think he'd be able to pull it off? I don't think he would.
So. You got to get the one. You got to get the, and this is all when I think about physical actors. When I think about people who learn the physical craft, you know, they also had to learn dance and movement and speech and how to do all that and be so natural. Because you know, you try running around like a chimpanzee for a 10-minute sequence,
you're
going to get exhausting. It's exhausting.
It reminds me of the scenes that are so good you forget that it's a person. Like, again, I know we're talking about Dawn. There's a scene where Toby Kebbell does a funny joke thing to make people lower their guard. Yeah. It's great.
It's great. And it makes so much sense. Like, it's like, oh, that's really smart. That's really smart. Oh, boy, we can't wait to talk about Dawn.
Yeah. I would argue that this is my least favorite of the 3.
Okay.
But I think it's because we want to get to the Planet of the Apes part. We want to get to like the post-apocalyptia because it's not like we now have cities and streets and banks with monkeys and it's a much more real approach to like what that would look like.
Yeah, no one has a British accent. San
Francisco's covered in moss. And stuff.
It looks like The Last of Us in the second movie.
I Am Legend or whatever.
Yeah. But that is something that they took this seriously. Like and the serious tone works. Because that's why when you're in the human shenanigans, you're kind of like, I don't really.
Because you hate earnestness in movies a lot of times. Did this kind of swing you? Were you not expecting it to be?
Well, I don't hate earnestness.
No, I know, but like what's the phrase of too self-serious?
Yeah.
Is this the right balance for you?
This is the right balance. And the only thing is, like, again, the human stuff can be kind of boring and hokey at times.
Monkeys. Like, what do you?
Yeah,
want?
and the monkeys are a little more complex in our minds because they're not complex to us in real life because they're just animals to us in real life, but they have social structures. They vie for power.
Yeah, the hand thing is a real thing as well.
And now we get an intimate look into that. If it was something that was bringing in human understandings, that's what Caesar has.
Yeah. And his journey becomes one of like, well, at first he's a uniter, but then he discovers that like any leader, like the journey of man is like the betrayal of man is as big a fall of man as anything else. Mm-hmm. So when the conflicts he has with Koba or other apes in the other movie are. Like
they don't blindly just follow him.
No,
and questions of leadership and loyalty are questioned after this movie. After it's like we have our world, you have yours. Yeah, and it's an uneasy understanding that it's like this is going to come to a head. Yeah, it's very interesting too. What was the amount of time between Rise and Dawn? How many years?
They keep it vague.
Well, also, I mean cinematically.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes is 11. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is 2014. War is 2017. So 3 years in between.
That's especially with this movie because it, like you said, there's not a lot of action.
No.
But it's so thrilling and interesting, and they do so much with just charm and making you like these characters, and then leading to a big action-packed finale that kind of ends on a peaceful, optimistic thing. Yeah. But in the back of your head, you're like, this is a Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
and this ain't a Planet of the Apes. This is a Mirror Woods of the Apes.
I also this is a weird treehouse of the apes.
Yeah. Where's this world coming from?
Yeah,
and you gotta wait 3 years.
And I think that I think I'll be okay if it never gets to there.
If it never goes to that level. Because I can't at this point. It's subverted it entirely.
Yeah, because I think the point is like humanity is destroyed, not apes become the apex of civilization. Mm-hmm. Because like. We don't want to watch apes in suits and ties. We want to watch this story. And I think that's what this gets right. What are you talking about? What is this face you're making?
I could go for that, especially. But that's just, again, that's me getting into the levels of seriousness and fun.
Yeah, I don't think they would ever.
They can't do it with this.
I think, I think as much of as serious as you take this, like, I think part of it is that they embrace that they are apes and they live in tribes.
They themselves do.
They don't wear clothes. Right. They wear the fur that God gave them or whatever. I think that's part of the the aesthetic of it all, and if you take that away, it becomes kind of weird and silly.
Yeah,
like
they would
Caesar would never wear a suit.
Right. He's like, I'm not a man. I'm an ape.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that. And apes don't kill apes. We have again, we're getting into Dawn.
Yeah, I know.
We're chomping at the bit for that.
Yeah. If you want, I can give you my Blu-ray for War as well, and you can knock that out too if you want.
I can check that out. I was gonna download it and just check it out from there.
I have it on my Vudu as well if you want to watch that.
That'd probably be a good way to do it. I guess closing remarks on it. Again, Dawn is very strong on my mind, and obviously we want to get to talking about that. Don't want that to diminish Rise. Because it is a fun movie. It is an enjoyable movie.
They're all fun. As dark as the second two are, or as dark as the last two are, there's still funny moments in it. There's a really funny one in the third one where it's like a weird kind of Great Escape skit, or like a distract the guards kind of thing.
Well, I'll have to see it. I'll have to see it.
And but yeah, they're like I said, they're the thinking man's blockbuster. They're fun. They have interesting, like, deep themes that you can read into it, but they also don't skimp on the blockbuster part, which one makes you want to see. I want to see the idiot who charges the gorilla on his horseback. What a moron! There's no scenario where you come out on top with that.
Because that is interesting, is because they have different kinds of monkeys, different kinds of primates. You know, they've got the gorilla who's like, he's the power, he's the strength build.
Did you get sad when he dies? When Caesar holds his hand and it falls out.
Not really.
You're kind of like, this is metal.
No, I was more like, of course they're having this scene, but I didn't get enough time to know the character because you know they can't do that much because they don't want it to be too like tragic. Yeah. Like instead it's just like, he was our guy, and like he took one for us, you know, and it's like, all right, see, you know, thanks buddy, I appreciate what you did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get it. I'm not gonna go, but I'm gonna be like,
he stops other apes from killing people.
Yes.
He does the no again.
Yes.
I can't remember if he does it to Koba or not.
Because that's his thing, is like, we, you know, apes don't kill apes and we don't kill anyone else. We are not like them.
Yeah.
You know, we are not torturers.
I think I think I like him as a leader. That's what sells me on this movie. If it took out like his person, like this, because that's the thing about with these movies, they're so personal. As big as the scope is, it's still at the end of the day, it's all about like Caesar.
Yeah.
Especially the third one is almost like his Odyssey. It's like he's Odysseus or something.
And I'd watch that because this movie develops Andy Serkis playing Caesar as this very likable character who naturally evolves into realizing what he is and what he can become and what therefore his species can become.
Yeah.
Because they don't. It's not really a movie that much about like the natural liberation from like zoos and like human control over animals. They don't talk about
60,
that much.
It's 60 seconds, yeah.
Yeah. Instead, it's just background for each of them. Like, I was a circus ape. I was experimented on. I was this. It's like, this is what binds us.
It's like human beings. We come from different places,
right,
but we all have weird.
Our traumas all bring us together in some ways. And so instead, it's just like, the thing is not like, it's not like a pro animal. It's not like a pro
animal rights
movie.
No.
It's a movie about an ascended group of beings.
Yeah.
Being like, we cannot live with your world.
Yeah, because that trauma that brings us together, it's also the cause of their conflict. The reason that we have conflicts with Koba is because his past is different than Caesar's.
Right.
He doesn't.
And therefore he challenges his leadership because it's like, you don't know them like I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah, other than we need to talk about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and I need to find you another movie to watch.
I'll be next. That'll be our next blind date, as we can do that. We still have to do King of Staten Island at some point.
We do need to do King of Staten Island.
I would, if you want, the next blind date can just be, if you want to finish War, we can just do both.
Yeah, I'm going to do both of them
together.
Yeah,
we can just talk about
We'll just get them both knocked out at the same time. I'll watch War next, and we'll do the finale, the double feature of the Apes.
Yeah.
And I'll find you.
And the rumor is that there might be a fourth one at some point, because the way the last one ends kind of leaves it, and you could end it there, but you could also be like, but what about this? Like, so like there's stuff to be done there as well.
And I'll think of something else for you to watch too.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Please check us out on iTunes. We are now up on iTunes as well. Check us out on Podbean and the free Podbean app. YouTube, subscribe.
As always, subscribe to our Facebook page where we update pretty regularly with any new episodes that come out.
Yeah, and let us know on any of these episodes. Feel free to comment or whatever and let us know if there's a movie you'd like us to watch and we might talk about it. This has been The Movie Date with Rob and Matt, a podcast for people who like movies but don't want to be too smug about it. I've been Rob.
I've been Matt.
And we will see you guys next time.
Peace.